Good evening, Patriots, and welcome to the Raw Feed. I'm Gary Franchi, and you're tuned in to the fastest-growing conservative news show, streaming live right now on YouTube, Rumble, and X to millions worldwide. If you're just joining us, hit that share button right now. Bypass the algorithm by texting this link to 5 Patriots who need to hear tonight's bombshell revelations. Ladies and gentlemen, we are broadcasting just 14 days after Donald Trump's landslide victory over Kamala Harris, and the deep state is in absolute panic mode. Tonight's show is packed with explosive developments that the mainstream media is desperately trying to suppress. So listen closely. You're going to want to stay with us because we've got 5 major stories that will shake you to your core. First, Matt Gaetz standing strong as the media's web of lies completely unravels. The View just had to issue a humiliating retraction, and we've got the footage. Next, we have Trump's transition team. They're dropping bombshell appointments. Dr. Oz, Linda McMahon, and wait until you hear who is shaking up things at the SEC. The deep state is literally shredding documents as we speak. And we've got a breaking update. Donald Trump's legal victories are mounting as courts crumble under pressure. Fonnie Willis's case is imploding, and Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, well, he just blinked. Then we got FEMA whistleblowers coming forward with shocking evidence of clear discrimination against Trump supporters. Chairman Comer's latest revelations will leave you speechless. And finally, World War III fears intensify as Putin updates Russia's nuclear doctrine. The timing of this, Patriots, is no coincidence. Now, before we dive in, I need to remind you of one thing. The show exists because of your support. The mainstream media wants us gone, but we are fighting back. If you value real news and want to help us keep exposing the truth, please consider supporting us through the links in the description. Every donation helps us continue this vital mission. And speaking of support, check out our brand new merch at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Show the world you're part of the movement with exclusive limited edition Next News gear. And for those watching on YouTube and Rumble, your Super Chats and your Rumble Rants, they get priority. We'll be featuring them on screen between segments for the world to see. Your voice matters, and we want to hear from you. So make sure you're following us on all platforms, YouTube, Rumble, and X. The censors are working overtime, but they can't stop us if we stick together. So Patriots, strap in. This is the Raw Feed, and we are about to blow the lid off stories they don't want you to know about. Let's dive into our show tonight and welcome you to it. Who is in the house tonight? Let's take a look. Remember to sound off where you are watching from, your city, your state, your country, your device, and let's take a look. We've got Sabrina. We got Nedimus Prime. We've got Sure You Gospel in the chat, wielding the wrench of truth. We got SLM in Boston, Brand 47. Let's ride. Sabrina's here. And who else is here? We've got Running Bear. What's up? Stick around like a fly on paper. Pothead Kenny. What's up, man? We Are Change is here. Yo, yo. We Are Change. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Who else is here? We've got Kit Kat, South Carolina. Loves your truth. Queen Bee's Art Hive is here. Good, good, good. We Are Change is here. Well, what do you know? We Are Change. That's pretty cool. Is that Luke? Is that like Luke Rudkowski tuning in? I got to find out if that's the real Luke or if that's a fake Luke. We Are Change. Let's take a look. Open up. Let's see. Click on this. Go to channel. And let's see the channel. See the channel? Is it Luke? What channel is this? It is We Are Change. What's up? It is Luke. Yeah. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. So cool. I remember showing my son your little adventure over there on that special island, Luke. Actually, he showed it to me, which was pretty funny. Okay. Who else is in the house tonight? We've got Joe in Richmond, Indiana. We've got Angel Salgado, 1984 in Mesa. We got Quigley, 1874. We got Nebraska reporting for duty. We got Pam in Quincy, Illinois. What's up, Quincy? Who else is in the house? We've got Damon Diaz in San Antonio, Texas. We got Portugal. Holy cow, Portugal is tuning in. And we've got Dallas in Thailand. Wow, all these international viewers. I love it and Canada too. Brian's here from Canada. So awesome to see all these people. Luke's like, yes, it is. It is the Luke Rudkowski. We are graced by his presence in the chat. Everyone give a shout out to Luke in the chat. Make sure he is welcome here. Luke and I go way, way, way back. I gotta say, it's an honor to know he's in the house. And man, the stories that Luke could tell. I remember Luke, I think I was telling this story the other night when we were down in New York and we were in Times Square together. And there must have been like 150 of us. And you looked up at the Jumbotron in Times Square and you saw Geraldo Rivera. And you're like, I know where that is. Let's get him. And then we all marched with Alex Jones to the Fox News area outside where they were broadcasting, and we just ambushed the broadcast. It was an amazing experience, and that's right when they had just outlawed bullhorning in New York City, and everyone was like, oh my goodness, if we get on a bullhorn, they're going to arrest us. No amplified speech or whatever it was. And we were disrupting the broadcast. Geraldo was getting so pissed. I remember he turned around, he flicked us off, and then Alex gets on the bullhorn and just starts screaming at him. And before you knew it, the cops arrived and they arrested Alex. And then you're like, let's go to the police station. And we all marched to the police station. And it was like a scene out of a movie. There was a line of police officers in the street. And then we were lined up on the sidewalk across. And we're like, let him go. Let him go. And then eventually they let Alex out. I remember Daniel Sunjata was there. And I got to admit, I was pretty nervous because I'd never been in an experience like that. But Luke is a seasoned veteran and doesn't take no shit from nobody. So that was pretty fun. I will never forget that. In fact, you can search it up, and that video is still on YouTube, believe it or not. I always loved telling that story. That's such a fun story. Yeah, me and Luke go way back. So, okay, who else is in the house tonight? Geraldo is woke, says Joe. Geraldo's a punk, says David. XRP strong in Indiana. Yeah, XRP is finally popping. We've been waiting for XRP to pop, and I've got it in a freaking wallet, and I can't get it out, and I've got to jump through like a dozen hoops for me to be able to transfer it. It's a nightmare, and there's quite a sizable sum here that I got to move. Anyway, we got lots of news to get to tonight, so let's jump right into it, shall we? The mainstream media's empire of lies is crumbling before our eyes, patriots. While The View issues a humiliating retraction about Matt Gaetz, CNN's viewership hits rock bottom. Remember when they called Trump literally Hitler? Well, now Mika and Joe are making pilgrimages to Mar-a-Lago. Even Chunk Uger is admitting the Democrats have become the party of intolerance. We've got exclusive footage of media meltdowns, shocking admissions, and the moment The View had to read their legal notice on the air. But first, let me tell you why the timing of this media implosion matters more than you think. So speaking of media lies and cover-ups, what they're not telling you about pain management is shocking. While they push their big pharma narratives, they're hiding the truth about Conolidine, a natural pain reliever that's changing lives, just like Matt Gaetz is exposing their smear campaigns. I'm exposing their pain management deception. Now, Conolidine optimizes your body's natural painkillers, providing relief without dangerous pills or side effects. It's 100% drug-free and legal worldwide. So take control of your pain at trycono.com/NNN. It's linked down below. Don't let them keep you suffering. You've got nothing to lose but your pain. Okay, thank you for our sponsors for making this show possible. So the media is in meltdown mode. There's Sonny. There's Whoopi. Yes, this is beautiful. This just literally broke a couple hours ago. The View had to read a legal notice about the fake claims made against Matt Gaetz, or he would have sued them into oblivion. He's not even attorney general yet, and they've already got them walking on eggshells. Let's listen to this.
Criminal investigation
on screen.
Well done, Gaetz.
Sonny, you have a legal note.
I do have a legal note. Thank you, Whoopi. Matt Gaetz has long denied all allegations, calling the claims, quote, invented, and saying in a statement to ABC News that this false smear following a 3-year criminal investigation should be viewed with great skepticism. that DOJ investigation was closed with no charges being brought.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. Yeah, you're lucky you're still on the air, Whoopi. Yeah, Matt Gaetz is getting ready to step into the AG role. People are freaking out because the hammer of justice is about to fall on the deep state. We're learning now there's a workaround for the Matt Gaetz appointment. Trump could use the Federal Vacancies Reform Act of 1998 instead of the recess appointment process. Remember, the recess appointment process is what we talked about as a secret weapon where Donald Trump could basically recess both houses of Congress, and then he could get all of his appointments in without having to go through all of the attacks that they're clearly starting to initiate. The Reform Act of 1998 has also been floated to get the Panhandle Republican through a Senate where many Republicans are skeptical of the Gaetz pick. The 1998 law allows for temporary appointments, however, for any vacant positions that exist during the 60-day period beginning on the transitional presidential inauguration day. An acting officer may serve in the position for no longer than 300 days beginning on the inauguration day or the date of the vacancy. That's according to the act. Donald Trump confirming he's standing by his nomination.
Matt Gaetz. Mr. President, are you reconsidering the nomination of Matt Gaetz?
No.
Are you reconsidering? What a stupid question. And then, of course, we have Rosie O'Donnell. Oh, man, she just looks like she fell out of the back of a truck and just got dragged behind it. She just looks horrible. She is pretty livid. Look at her angry face. She's so angry that Mika and Joe went down to Mar-a-Lago.
Then you go kiss.
Let's just try to stomach this for a couple seconds if we can.
Please. So Mika and Joe went down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring. It's the last time I ever watched Morning Joe.
Okay, well, it doesn't really bother me very much that you're not going to watch Morning Joe anymore. Nobody even watches you, except in your unhinged rants when they go viral. Natalie Danielson, Legacy Media, and their lies will manipulate you to make you feel alone. Remember, you are not alone, okay? What the media wants you to believe and what the reality is. Yes, we are a united country, despite what they will tell you. Alex Finn, this is why the mainstream media is dead. People are done. They're done with the lies. They're done with the spins, done with the fake narratives. What Don Lemon did to Elon in this clip is disgusting and bizarre. This is why X is going to win. Nothing but the truth. Now, when I saw this clip, it actually came out on the clip was published on November 11th. This is from when Elon and Don Lemon did their interview. Remember when Don Lemon was supposed to have his own show on X? And this was like his big moment to interview Elon Musk. But instead, he completely just botched the whole interview, lost his contract, and, walked away crying. And now he's relegated to trying to make TikTok videos for relevancy. But Brian, go vertical with this, and let's just play this clip real quick here. I think we can play it here.
I don't drink. I don't really.
Are you sober?
Almost always.
Are you
yes.
under the influence of anything?
No, I don't drink. I don't really. No.
No drink, no smoke, no nothing. I mean, you smoke pot with Rogan.
I had one puff.
Yeah.
I think anyone who smokes pot can tell I don't know how to smoke pot.
But you've admitted that you have a ketamine prescription.
Yeah.
What's that for?
Well, I mean, it's pretty private to ask somebody about a medical prescription,
You're doing it under a doctor's care, right?
Yeah. Literally a prescription from a real doctor, not like,
Yeah. But do you feel like you ever abuse it?
I don't think so. If you use too much ketamine, you can't really get work done. So I have a lot of work. So I'm typically putting in 16-hour days. That's normal for me. And it's rare for me to even take off a weekend day.
What a disgusting line of questioning from Don Lemon. That just goes to show how irrelevant this guy is. But you know what? We are the new media. We have been the new media. We have been ahead of the curve for 20 years, and the mainstream media is just trying to play catch up. So as ratings crater, Brian, you can go horizontal. As ratings crater, CNN is set to axe its top stars in layoffs that will see hundreds fired, according to the Daily Mail. The imploding CNN's Brian Stelter and Abby Phillip explained to viewers that tanking public trust in media isn't the fault of the media. It's your fault.
decades. It's also, but I want to recognize that for all the flaws of the mainstream media, and we have a lot of them, it's not just the media's fault that trust has been declining for decades. It's also decades of attacks by politicians.
That is the main issue, is that, like, I mean, yeah, it could be that the Washington Post is endorsing candidates, or it could be that there are millions of voters who believe lying politicians who tell them lies. Knowing that they are. I mean, that could be the problem too.
Oh, it's the politicians telling you lies, or maybe it's actually the media telling you lies. This is CNN. They have been lying to us for 20 years or longer. And that media trust has been declining rapidly, especially when Donald Trump got into office. Now, the reason I started this channel is because I started this channel back in 2012 because I didn't like what I saw on the mainstream media. Even back then, when I saw what they did to Ron Paul. And I'm like, you know what? I'm never going to let that happen again. So we started Next News Network because we're going to push back on those narratives. We've been pushing back on them ever since. And the media trust has been in a steady decline ever since. And now you have got online YouTube, you've got X, you've got, all these different platforms where you can broadcast a message to push back against these people. These people are irrelevant. They're irrelevant. Like Mark Dice always says, he gets more views in his kitchen than CNN does in a day. Nobody watches CNN. Their ratings are in the garbage. Continuing on with this. Okay. Democrat strategists, listen to this. A Democrat strategist said on CNN, the U.S. military is going to open fire. See, this is another example of the media's lies. A Democrat strategist just said on CNN, the U.S. military is going to open fire on American citizens while carrying out Donald Trump's mass deportations. Wow.
When the military opens, I live next to these people. I can tell you they are women and they are children. Are there terrorists among them? I don't know. But I can tell you that
neither does the government.
But I can tell you, but let me tell, okay, but what I'm telling you right now, practically speaking, is that there will be people, American citizens, who will prevent these little kids from being dragged out of these shelters. There are. And what's going to happen to these people? What is going to happen to the military when the military opens fire on us?
But no one's.
Can you see?
We're way down a rabbit hole here.
Yeah, we are way down a rabbit hole. But that's the narrative that they're continuing to push. Okay? And let's see, we got this here. More media lies. Democrat Debbie Wasserman Schultz is claiming that Tulsi Gabbard's a Russian asset. That's like the default. If it goes against any of their narratives, it's obviously Russian disinformation, or they work for Russia. It's so embarrassing, and it's so tired. The American people see right through it. It is, again, why nobody trusts the media anymore.
Tulsi Gabbard is someone who has met with war criminals, violated the Department of State's guidance, and secretly, clandestinely went to Syria and met with Assad, who gassed and attacked his own people with chemical weapons. She's considered to be essentially, by most assessments, a Russian asset, and would be the most.
Is that how you
dangerous...
consider her? Is that what you consider her?
Oh yes, there's no question.
Disgraceful. That is the level of rhetoric that's coming from the left and being presented on MSNBC. And okay, so there's a great clip that's going around right now, and it just shows you how like the left is just cannibalizing each other right now, and it's Chunk Uger going off on Alan Lichtman, and they're eating their own right now in this video clip. Watch this.
Don't blame the voters. I think, look, we could get into this discussion, but one, I think you're blaming the voters. I think that's a terrible idea. And look, I debated Professor Lichtman before. I told him his theories about the keys were absurd. I was right. He was wrong. I said he'd lose his keys.
No, you were
couldn't
not
find
right,
them before
and
the
I was
election.
not wrong, and that's a cheap shot, and I won't stand for it.
Well, who won, brother?
You should not be taking cheap shots at me.
Who won?
You want to make your
you
point,
live
make your
in
point.
a total
Don't make
world
it
of denial.
I read.
Okay, listen, I've actually got a better version of that clip, so we don't have to keep cutting through to the vertical shots. Let's go to that instead. Here it is.
I think,
and
don't blame the voters.
To give you some more context, Lichtman apparently had a piece, and he said that the keys of the White House were wrong. Lichtman responds by accusing him of blasphemy. So I guess Lichtman wrote a piece claiming that Biden was going to win or something. So here we go.
Don't blame the voters. I think, look, we could get into this discussion, but one, I think you're blaming the voters. I think that's a terrible idea. Look, I debated Professor Lichtman before. I told him his theories about the keys were absurd. I was right. He was wrong. I said he'd lose his keys.
No, you were
Couldn't
not
find
right,
him
and
before
I
the
was
election.
not wrong. And that's a cheap shot, and I won't stand for it.
Well, who won, brother?
You should not be
Who
taking
won?
cheap
Who
shots
won?
at me.
Who won?
You want to make your
You
point,
live
make your
in
point.
a total
Don't make
world
it
of
personal.
denial.
I read your own followers' comments, and they all trashed you, every one of them, and supported me.
Yeah,
so quiet with
right.
your personal
yeah,
attacks.
come find out again.
Make whatever point you want.
Yeah.
Don't
Look,
make it personal.
You don't know anything. You don't know anything.
You attacked me personally.
You're so deluded.
Oh, right. I've only been a professor for 51 years.
On this program, I've never been able to finish a thought.
How many books have you published? No, because you're personally attacking me again. Say whatever you want, but I'm not going to stand for
brother,
personal
you got it wrong.
Say
you were
whatever you want.
preposterously and stupidly wrong. So, okay, all right. Can I just finish a goddamn thought ever on this show?
No, not if you're personally. I admitted I was wrong. I don't need you to call me stupid.
Okay.
Can I just say, it's great to see you Democrats all getting along so well.
Who taught you manners?
It's lovely to see a post-election harmony as you all come together again.
Hey, Alan, right now. Hey, Alan, you deserve a tall glass of shut-up juice, so can you just shut up for a second and let someone who knows what they're doing...
You're so right, Pierce. You're so right. We're so unified right now.
So I will not sit here and stand for personal attacks, for blasphemy against me. You don't need to do that. You don't boost
blasphemy
your ego
against you? Who the hell are you? Are you Jesus Christ, you loser? Okay, can I just give the correct answer for once?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, they are eating their own. And what's funny is that Chunk Uger is now, I saw him talking with Elon on X. He's begging for a job at the Department of Government Efficiency. Yeah, that's where Chunk is. He thinks he can help cut the fat in government. Well, speaking of Elon Musk and X, CNN now admitting that X represents the average ideological makeup of the United States better than it ever did before Elon bought it. Let's listen to this.
Look at so the reason, one of the big reasons he bought Twitter/X is because he wanted to make it his own platform, remake it in his own image. And I think this really gets at it. Look at this. The party ID among those who regularly use X/Twitter for news. Back in 2022, 65% of those who regularly use Twitter/X for news were Democrats. Just 31% were Republicans. Look at where we are today. Just a completely different picture. Now it's basically split between Democrats at 48%, Republicans at 47%. And what I should note, Mr. Berman, is this new overall makeup matches the overall electorate far better. And more than that, John, look at where Mr. Musk's net worth is today versus where it was just 2 months ago. He is the richest man in the world by far. 2 months ago, look at this. His net worth was $252 billion. Look at where we are today, $314 billion. He is by far the richest man ever to be on this planet. So yes, he's not as popular. Yes, Twitter/X perhaps is not as popular, but it's a much different platform, one that more represents Elon Musk's, let's say, political instincts, and he is now a far wealthier man. So the reason...
Okay, so it represents his political instincts, whatever. What the hell does that even mean? But look at those numbers. Democrats in 2022... Now, back then, I never even used X. I never used it. I hated it. I just avoided it. We just had automated systems publishing to X. It was a hive of leftist filth all day long. And you couldn't post anything there without fear of some kind of retribution or your account getting banned. So look at it now. 2024. Democrats at 48% and the GOP at 47%. That's pretty balanced, if you ask me. That's a pretty good makeup. And I like to see those numbers. But when you have 65 to 31, yeah. That's because it was Democrat controlled. Censorship was the rule of the day. And now Elon Musk has brought it back, and he's now even more wealthy than before. But that doesn't stop the attacks that continue to hit. President Trump wants a hammer at the DOJ, and he sees Matt Gaetz as that hammer. Let's continue to look.
He's very. I think the president wants a hammer at the DOJ, and he sees Matt Gaetz as a hammer, and all these other appointments. He's very confident in where they're at and can deliver the administration that he's wanting. His picks have been maybe unconventional. But we hired an unconventional president, and the American people wanted that. They don't want politics as usual. They want someone that's going to shake up Washington, D.C., and President Trump proved he could do that in 2016, and we've had great results with the economy that followed. The American people saw what happened underneath the Biden administration, and it went to I'm going to use good words here. It went to heck in a handbasket. And then we see where the American people said, we're tired of that. We want something different. So the American people want it to be shook up. And the president is maybe using some picks for these positions that's not conventional, but it's what the American people wanted. I think the president wants a hammer.
And Matt Gaetz is going to be that hammer. That's why all these attacks are coming out. That's why The View has to state a retraction. Senator Lindsey Graham, just 6 hours ago, he said this on CNN.
Nobody should be disqualified because of a media report.
It's more than it's an investigation by the department. He wants to leave. Bipartisan ethics investigation.
And they didn't proceed forward.
Bingo. Oh, but it's an investigation. Oh, but they didn't proceed forward. Case closed. It's over. But see, they want to keep bringing this stuff up. Real Anna Polina, she says the smear campaign tied to a $25 million extortion scheme against Matt Gaetz and his father. Listen.
Founded, I've been able to get firsthand knowledge from the Department of Justice and FBI once they came out and acquitted Gaetz and actually dropped their investigation into him because they found that all those allegations, as you had just stated, were actually unfounded. I really would appreciate it if networks would cover the fact that this was also tied to a $25 million extortion scheme against Matt Gaetz and his father. And to furthermore, I find it interesting that these actual allegations come out at peculiar timing while he's being nominated to be the Attorney General. To be clear, I do think Matt Gaetz is going to be an incredible Attorney General. I think this baseless smear campaign, frankly, is abhorrent that it's happening to someone like Matt Gaetz, who's done so much to fight the government corruption. And there's a reason why President Trump won not just the popular vote, but also the electorate vote. Frankly, people trust President Trump's judgment more than any news outlet out there. I've been able to
because the media is dying. The media is dead. Dead in the water. Everybody knows it. They know it. Here's more.
These baseless, and frankly, what I'm finding is these baseless allegations, when people go out there and smear reputations, this happened to Justice Brett Kavanaugh, this happens to a lot of male Republicans or people that are nominated to positions of power. And frankly, as someone who knows Representative Gaetz, when I was first elected to Congress, I think it's incredibly important for women out there to know I was only a few months pregnant. I had a reporter come up to me and ask me how many members of Congress I had had sex with, also alleging that I had a relationship with Matt Gaetz, which was categorically false. But the reason why they did that is because I was standing up against the machine that exists here in Washington, D.C. So be aware that these types of smear campaigns do exist. That's why I've been so adamant about getting the facts out there. And I still back him. Frankly, I think that if the DOJ and the FBI had evidence, they would have prosecuted because Matt Gaetz is a thorn in their side. But that's exactly why I think it's important for your network, especially, to put the facts out there. And that's why I chose to come on today. And
suck it. I mean, who can ever forget what they did to Brett Kavanaugh? Bringing in Christine Blasey Ford, standing there under oath, making all kinds of wild accusations. And then all these other crazy people started coming forward. They were all proven to be false. What happened to those people? Were they ever held accountable? No, but this is what they do when they fear somebody is going to bring accountability to them. They make up all kinds of stories. Here's more.
You know, you mentioned earlier that this is the same testimony that was, again, dropped by the DOJ and the FBI because these people were not credible. And I will say that for the senators that are coming forward and stating that they need to read this testimony, let's look into these people's stocks portfolios and how they're becoming multimillionaires off of $175,000 a year. The reason why people want outsiders, the reason why people are not buying this Gaetz smear campaign, and that is exactly what it is because of the fact that they understand that there is a two-tier justice system. You know, you mentioned earlier that I do think the DOJ is corrupt. Absolutely. When I find that they're giving special treatment to the Attorney General, that he doesn't have to testify to Congress yet, if any single other American does that, they go to jail. That is absolutely government corruption. But when you're then talking about cabinet picks, you're talking about an ethics investigation. I mean, I'm pretty sure Matt Gaetz has also been investigated for misuse of campaign funds that were also dropped. So the fact is that Matt Gaetz has, again, time and time again, stood up to the swamp. Frankly, I know him as a person. I know his family. And I've been able to be privy to the conversations behind closed doors of members looking forward to this leaked ethics report because they know that it's going to smear him. I'm not going to state who the members are, but what I will state is that that type of behavior, putting this forward to the American people, smearing Matt Gaetz's reputation, and then also undercutting the credibility of President Trump, who, again, the American people trust to lead this nation, I'm not going to play that game. This is the same.
No one's playing that game anymore. We're calling them out, holding them accountable, and we are on the case. Guess who has called for the FBI to end its pernicious relationship with the discredited and likely criminal SPLC? None other than future AG Matt Gaetz. Yes, apparently the Southern Poverty Law Center is making headlines again. Matt Gaetz calling for an investigation into the FBI's reliance on the Southern Poverty Law Center. It's about time. That hate group needs to be shut down. The smear campaigns that they have done against patriots, against moms. In fact, I looked it up and I just did a search for Next News Network and SPLC. I did a quick search and I found that my news channel was on a list between some alpha males and some suburban moms on a hate map. Yeah. But I mean, I've been a target of the SPLC since going back to, say, 2010, when I was featured as Patriot number 9 on their Meet the Patriots hit list. Yeah, so it's about time. Elon Musk says the Southern Poverty Law Center is a criminal organization. Seth Dillon, the discredited, scandal-ridden smear factory known as the SPLC, is about to publish a hit piece doxing several of our not-the-be writers who wish to remain anonymous so they could speak freely. Without fear, the SPLC extracted sensitive information from our site, then used that information to contact our writers directly. I've included a screenshot of one of these emails. We're determining how they obtained this information, but we already know why they went digging for it. They did it because they're left-wing activists masquerading as journalists. They did it because they lack principles. They did it because they're vindictive bullies who've admitted their aim is to completely destroy individuals and organizations they disagree with by making them pay a steep price for speaking freely. As a public figure, I've been attacked many times. It comes with the territory, and I accept that. What I won't accept is the doxing and smearing of our staff because they said something the SPLC doesn't like. So, I decided that I would respond to Elon Musk's statement there and point out what I just shared with you. And here it is. This is what I said to Elon. See if I can... Here it is. Yeah. That hate group sandwich us between alpha males and suburban moms. And back in 2010... I was listed as Patriot 9 in their Meet the Patriots hit piece. Here it is. There is the Next News Network underneath the NCFM Chicago and the Northern Illinois Moms for America. This is on their hit list. And then this is a picture that they chose to include of me back in 2010. They called me the FEMA Fabulist. That's when I was 32 years old. Gary Franchi is one of the leading promoters of a resurgent patriot conspiracy theory that alleges government is creating concentration camps for U.S. citizens. Well, are they or are they not? What's happening in North Carolina right now? So, the mainstream media, Elon Musk just posted this, just literally lied relentlessly. Scott Jennings, listen to this, what he says. This is a great clip.
The Hitler. I'm amazed. I did not expect Hitler to get so many meeting requests. First from Joe Biden, now from Mika and Joe. It's amazing that literal Hitler is getting all these meeting requests. And what it tells me, Professor, is that all the rhetoric that came from the left, from the Democrats, from the White House, from Kamala Harris and everyone else before the election, all of the rhetoric, the fascism, the Hitler, the Nazi rally, it was all a bunch of BS. They didn't mean any of it. And if I were in the Democrat sort of rabbles shoes, I would be looking at all my leaders and going, did you just BS me for an entire 6 weeks before the election?
I just reread.
And that's why the media is dying. When they go out and they literally call Trump Hitler for weeks on end, saying he is a threat to democracy, and then you got Mika and Joe going down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring. What does that say? When Joe Biden welcomes literally Hitler into the White House and they sit down in the Oval Office and have a chat, I thought this guy was a threat to democracy. How could you ever be colluding with somebody like that? How could you ever? Why would you shake their hand? Because it's all an act. It's all lies, and they continue to feed into their lies and feed it to their base like it's red meat. Actually, not red meat, because their base doesn't eat red meat. They eat artificial meat, vegan meat. Colin Rugg, Anna Navarro starts yelling after Republican communicator Erin Perrine fact checks her on how the Senate confirmation process works. Yeah, Anna Navarro, give me a break. She's another piece of human garbage.
Because you asked if Republican senators do not capitulate on their duty to advise and consent, and they conduct vigorous hearings where they're, these folks are questioned,
the only people that have said
and then they vote their conscience. Right. We shouldn't be having this conversation.
But I can also tell you this. You asked a question about John Thune and whether or not what I believed about John Thune. I'll tell you this.
No, I didn't ask you that. But I've known John Thune for 20 years.
I know John Thune too. I worked for him.
I think he's an institutionalist.
Yes.
And I think he's a good guy. And I hope that he will conduct himself as the new leader of the Senate and be ethical.
This is one thing
he's always been.
MAGA doesn't understand about why John Thune was such a great selection is that he understands how the Senate works. He knows these rules and procedures. He knows what it takes to run the clock on a nomination. Listen, if Democrats want to make it painful and never get home to see their districts or their families, they can run the clock on every nomination. It also eats up floor time in order to get the agenda done that Donald Trump was elected to do on behalf of the American people. If Democrats want to jam the floor of the United States Senate and ultimately have a fire alarm pulled because they're unwilling to do both of their jobs, which are nominations and not jam up the floor, and they want to run the clock,
throw their hands
or
up in
they
the
go
air.
to the legislative calendar.
Democrats cannot throw their hands up in the air.
Then they run the clock and they stop the American people from getting the agenda they want done. That's exactly what you're saying.
Not even Mitch
Having worked in the United States Senate, I can tell you this. Mitch McConnell, they will run the clock.
May I speak? Mitch McConnell, who had polio, I have a hard time thinking that Mitch McConnell, who had polio and knows the benefit of those vaccines and eradicating those diseases that almost wiped out children, would throw his hands up in the air and say, "Oh, it's RFK."
Everyone, let's appreciate it. Thank you.
It feels like it's a bad episode of The View. Holy cow, man! But that's the state of the media today, spewing lies, smear campaigns, but it's backfiring big time. In this clip right here, it tells you everything you need to know. X is taking over the code. X is taking over the broadcast. Right now, this is being live streamed on X. It's being live streamed on Rumble. It's being live streamed on YouTube. And we're growing fast. We are growing fast on X. Make sure you follow us there. So we're going to continue to follow the lies, and we are going to break it all down. I mean, the fact that they said that Trump's going to order the military to open fire. I mean, these are the lies that are being spread, and it's disgusting. And thankfully, Don Lemon no longer has a place in the mainstream media, and Matt Gaetz is coming for it all. So there you have it, Patriots. The mainstream media's credibility isn't just damaged, it's destroyed. When The View has to issue legal notices, when Morning Joe bends the knee at Mar-a-Lago, when even CNN admits that X reflects America better than they do, you know the tide has turned. And speaking of turning tides, don't forget to check out our exclusive Next News merch at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Link down below. Show the world you're on the right side of history. But here's what I want you to think about and drop your answers in the comments below. If the media lied about Matt Gaetz, lied about Trump being literally Hitler, and now they're literally kissing the ring at Mar-a-Lago, what else are they lying about right now? What other stories are they burying to protect the deep state? Drop a comment below. All right, folks, let's see. I think I saw Super Chat time. What's up, Super Chat? Let's see who our Super Chats are coming in from. Let's see. Here we go. Super Chats. This is from Apogee Health Direct. This has been going on for at least 30 years. All the while, government monies are handed out in ever-increasing amounts. Whatever they accuse someone of doing, that is what they are doing. Certainly true. Certainly true. Okay, back to the chat room, see what else is going on before we move on to our next statement. X is not a free speech platform. I'm blocked. Where's my freedom of speech? I don't know. I mean, I had one of my accounts recently got suspended. My wife, she started an X account, and her very first tweet, she was questioning Nancy Pelosi's daughter. She fired off something at Nancy Pelosi's daughter, and her account was instantly shut down. Instantly. Never got it back. Now, of course, it was a brand new account, so they shut it down. I don't know why. I told her to start a new one. So, start a new one. That's all I can say. We are watching them fall apart, Pothead Kenny. Yeah. Yes, we are. Okay, let's see what else is going on in the world. Let's head up to our next topic. And Brian, you can leave when I bring up the the merch slide, when I call it up at the end. You don't have to bring it down. You can leave it up so people have a chance to see it. There's no need for it to. We can go out on it. I think it's fine. It's such a short call to action anyway. It's kind of awkward that it comes down so quick. So you can leave it up. All right. All right, friends, the swamp is being drained in real time. Trump's transition team just dropped a series of appointments that have Washington insiders running scared. Dr. Oz taking control of Medicare and Medicaid. Linda McMahon revolutionizing education. And a pro-crypto warrior heading to the SEC. But the bombshell that's really sending shockwaves, Howard Lutnick at Commerce, talking about eliminating the income tax entirely. The deep state's paper shredders are working overtime as we speak. Meanwhile, Elon Musk and Donald Trump, they're meeting at SpaceX, plotting what could be the biggest technological revolution in American history. Now, Patriots, while we're watching Donald Trump rebuild America's strength through these appointments, let's talk about rebuilding your personal strength. Like Howard Lutnick's plan to revolutionize commerce, Sculpt Nation is revolutionizing men's health. Their test boost formula is exactly what you need in these challenging times. Just as Trump's picking warriors for his cabinet, you need to be at your strongest to fight back against the system. Don't let them weaken you. Take back control of your vitality. Go to sculptnation.com/NNN and save up to 51% off your first order so you can be ready for what's coming. Okay, lots of news to get to in this segment. Now, the DOGE, I'm very excited about the DOGE, this new Department of Government Efficiency. And I cannot wait to see the technological wizardry of Elon Musk joined with Vivek Ramaswamy and Ron Paul and executed by Donald Trump in his executive authority, putting together a website where we can pick and choose and vote up and vote down all the insane spending that the government does. So let's listen in. This was just published. If an agency doesn't work, it must go. This is Representative Tiffany.
Commission. According to the exit polls and even all of the polling heading up to the election, inflation, immigration, top issues. But I think a dark horse was the education issue, especially when it comes to parents who learned, unfortunately, during COVID, what their children were being taught. This is something that you have been very, very vocal about. When it comes to the Department of Education and something that's been tossed around, basically hitting Control-Alt-Delete on the Department of Education, returning it to the states, how difficult of a task is that going to be, and what does it look like? Just like you said, in regards to COVID, the Biden administration saying, hey, we're going to allow boys to be able to go in and play girls' sports or go into girls' locker rooms. Those things really animate a lot of voters. And I think that's actually, especially for women, was a motivating force for them to say, you know what, I am going to vote for President Trump in regards to this. So we have the Department of Education, established by President Carter back in 1979. Has educational attainment gotten better in America since we allowed the federal government to put its nose under the tent? The answer is no. So if an agency does not work, then it should be eliminated. And I am really excited that I was actually surprised at one of the rallies in Wisconsin, President Trump brought this up. And I was like, oh God, this is kind of interesting he's bringing this up, but he has stayed with it and is saying, we need to eliminate this. And I'm with him. I hope we can make it happen.
Big opportunity, and he's got two heavyweights in the ring trying to help him reorganize government. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, two billionaire entrepreneurs. They know how to get things done. They're already crowdsourcing some interesting ideas, asking the American public, give us examples. We'll tackle them and try to cut government. Special machines being bought from Starbucks at the Pentagon. I don't know what that's about. And equity lessons for teachers and students to indoctrinate them. Seems like
but you know what? It actually gets better. Vivek Ramaswamy tweeted this just 2 hours ago. He brought up Milton Friedman, of all people. He said, Milton Friedman would be a DOGE man if he were still with us. We will make him proud. So this is an old interview of Milton Friedman. Listen to, okay, so if this is going to tell you anything, what we can expect, this is the influence of Vivek Ramaswamy. Listen to this.
It's gone. Department 14 is a lot for television, so I want to just go right down the list quickly and have you give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Keep them or abolish them. Department of Agriculture.
Abolish.
Gone. Department of Commerce.
Abolish.
Gone. Department of Defense.
Keep.
Keep it. Department of Education.
Abolish.
Gone. Energy.
Abolish. Except that energy ties in with the military.
Well, then we shove it under defense.
That's
the little bit that handles the nuclear,
right, that ought to go under
plutonium
defense.
and so forth goes under defense, but we abolish the rest of it. Health and Human Services?
There is room for some public health activities to prevent contagion. Such a thing as, for example.
So you'd keep the National Institutes of Health, say, and the Center for Disease Control down in Atlanta?
No, not the National Institute. No, those are mostly research agencies. No. That's a question of whether the government should be involved in financing research.
And the answer is no.
Well, that's a very complicated issue, and it's not an easy answer with respect to that.
We'll eliminate half of the Department of Health and Human Services?
Like
okay, one half. There we go. Housing and Urban Development?
Out.
Oh.
Okay, did you hear what he said? Cutting half of Health and Human Services. That's exactly what RFK plans to do. There are already hundreds of people. I think they said 600 people are already on the chopping block at that agency. So we're seeing Milton Friedman's dream come to fruition, and Vivek Ramaswamy tweeting this video out. This is a message to America. Listen carefully. There's more.
Pause over that one. Department of the Interior.
Oh, well, but housing and urban development has done an enormous amount of harm. My God. If you think of the way in which they've destroyed parts of cities under the rubric of eliminating slums.
Jack Kemp.
You know, you remember Martin Anderson wrote a book on the federal bulldozer describing the effect of the urban development. there have been many more dwelling units torn down in the name of public housing than have been built.
Jack Kemp has proposed selling to the current inhabitants of public housing their unit, their townhouse, their apartment for $1 a piece, and just shifting the ownership to the people who live in.
If you got rid of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, it would be worth doing that.
All right, done. That's gone. Department of the Interior, your beloved National Park Service.
Well, given the problem there is, you first have to sell off all the land that the government owns. But that's what you should do.
But it could be done pretty quickly.
It could be done. You should do that. There's no reason for the government to own. The government now owns something like 1/3 of all the land in the country.
And that's too much. Should go down to zero.
Should go down to, well, not entirely zero. They ought to own the land on which government buildings are.
Okay, terrific. Department of Justice.
Oh, yes.
Keep that one.
Keep that one.
Labor.
No.
Gone. State.
Keep.
Keep it. Transportation.
Gone.
Gone. The Treasury?
You have to keep it to collect taxes.
All right, collect taxes through the Treasury. Veterans Affairs?
You can regard the Veteran Affairs as a way of paying essentially salaries for services of those who have been in the armed force. But you ought to be able to get rid of it.
You should be able to
pay it off.
Pay it off. Pay off lump sums, perhaps.
That's right.
And just get rid of it. Okay, Milton Friedman, if you are made dictator for one day, the next day the American government...
I don't.
Dictator for one day. Listen to the language that's being presented here. Remember, Donald Trump said, I'll be a dictator, but only on day one. Oh my goodness, how crazy is this?
I want to be made dictator.
You wouldn't.
I don't believe in dictators.
Okay.
I believe we want to bring about change by the agreement of the citizens. I don't believe in arbitrary rule.
Let me put it this way then.
If we can't persuade the public that it's desirable to do these things, we have no right to impose them, even if we had the power to do it.
All right. From 14 departments down to four and a half.
Fundamental functions. What are its fundamental functions? Preserve the peace, defend the country.
All right.
Provide a mechanism whereby individuals can adjudicate their disputes. That's the Justice Department. Protect individuals from being coerced by other individuals. The police function.
Right.
And now, this is both the central government and the state and local governments. The police function is primarily local and central.
Right.
And those are the fundamental functions of government, in my opinion.
Milton Friedman, thank you very much.
How do you like that? Vivek Ramaswamy giving America a little taste of Milton Friedman. How cool is that? And we're learning now that President Trump is set to tap crypto lawyer Teresa Guillen to replace anti-crypto Gary Gensler as SEC chair per reports. This would be huge for crypto and help fulfill Trump's promise. Yeah, I'm excited for that. You know, I've been tracking Bitcoin for a very, very long time. And, I mean, Bitcoin is surging under Donald Trump. I mean, it is about to kiss 100,000, and it's going to go even further during the Trump administration. I'm even hearing whispers of a strategic federal stockpile of Bitcoin. And if that happens, oh, man, you better get into Bitcoin quick. Even if you just get a little bit, $100 here, $200 there, I'm an advocate for it. Okay. So we're also learning this. A federal judge postponed another J6 trial today due to Trump's election. He then released a message. Blanket pardons for all J6 defendants would be beyond frustrating and disappointing, which means blanket pardons are in order. Pardon all non-Fed J6ers. That is what needs to be done, President Trump. And I pray that on day one, he lets those people go. Also, this was a couple days ago, but it's worth repeating if you haven't heard it. President Trump's transition team is creating a list of military officers to court-martial And, of course, the media is in meltdown over it.
Working on the... We start now with breaking news tonight. NBC News is reporting that the Trump transition team is compiling a list of current and former U.S. military officers who were directly involved in the 2021 Afghanistan withdrawal for possible court-martial. Officers working on the transition are considering creating a commission to investigate the withdrawal, including gathering information about who was directly involved in the decision-making for the military, how it was carried out, and whether military leaders could be eligible for charges as serious as treason. Wow. It's not clear, though, what...
As serious as treason. I mean, you know, it's about time that somebody was held to account. Now, throwing the word treason around is not something that's done lightly, but there are certainly a lot of traitors within our government. And now MSNBC is using that word. That treason is on the table. Folks, if we're going to drain the swamp, if we are going to gut the deep state, there needs to be serious accountability. Court-martialing and treason, make it so.
Legally justify treason charges since the military officers were following the orders of President Biden to withdraw all U.S. forces from Afghanistan. Matt Flynn, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Counter-Narcotics and Global Threats, is helping lead the effort, sources say. NBC News has reached out to the Trump transition team for comment, but they have yet to respond. We begin this...
I mean, why even respond to MSNBC? I mean, they are fake news incarnate. Okay, we also got President Trump selecting school choice supporter Linda McMahon for Education Secretary. McMahon is Trump's current transition co-chair and is the former Small Business Administration head. So that is good. We're going to see Linda McMahon returning to the Trump administration. Trump's announcing Howard Lutnick joining his administration as the Secretary of Commerce. This is the official statement. I am thrilled to announce Howard Lutnick, Chairman and CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, to join my administration as the U.S. Secretary of Commerce. He will lead our tariff and trade agenda with additional direct responsibility for the Office of the United States Trade Representative. So he is going to be leading tariffs. Now, when I spoke to Ron Paul about the tariff situation, he didn't think that it was a possible means to flip and remove the income tax. But maybe, maybe after they cut all this fat with Elon, maybe there's a way they could do it. In fact, I actually posted to my X account the other day a way in which administratively Donald Trump could get rid of the income tax just by simply defining what an individual is in the tax code. Because in the tax code, an individual is not defined. It says all individuals, whatever, pay taxes, right? This is what you have to do. This is, it's voluntary compliance. An individual must, voluntarily comply. But the term individual is never actually defined. So if they define an individual as somebody other than me or you, guess what? It's gone. You have no obligation. You don't have to voluntarily comply anymore. So go back and check my X feed and you'll find the video. I shared it. It was from YouTube. Very important point that it can be done administratively with just simply defining a term. Here is Donald Trump watching the at SpaceX with Elon Musk. You see Ted Cruz there watching this massive rocket taking off. I mean, how cool. I mean, it's funny. This is private enterprise. This is private business. And they are making NASA look like fools. Look at the size of that thing. It is absolutely enormous. It's like the size of a skyscraper. And this is all from the mind of Elon Musk. And they're mad at him because he won't censor enough people on X. Linda McMahon, yes, she's going to be expected to be the education secretary. And then we had this news that broke today. I did not expect this, but I'm glad to see Dr. Oz joining the team. Trump selecting Dr. Oz, former GOP Senate candidate in Pennsylvania. That was stolen from him. We all know it. He's going to be leading Medicare and Medicaid Services Administration. Our broken healthcare system harms everyday Americans and crushes our country's budget. Dr. Oz will be a leader in incentivizing disease prevention. Trump picking Dr. Oz. So congratulations, Dr. Oz, for that. Here's more video of when Trump and Elon were at SpaceX. This is more video of when they arrived. I mean, Elon is just like, he's like the Howard Hughes of our day. But he's not, a recluse hiding in his mansion. But he's got visionary talent, and he executes that vision, surrounds himself with the right people. The richest man in the world with Donald Trump, and they are about to clean house. So Howard Lutnick, going back to that, Trump announced Howard Lutnick will be Commerce Secretary. Do you have any idea how big this is? Lutnick speaks about eliminating income tax and funding the government solely on tariffs, just like Trump has been hinting at. Let's listen.
Of the century, we all say, make America great again. But let's just go over for a minute what that means, because we all say it as a slogan. When was America great? At the turn of the century, our economy was rocking. This is 1900, 125 years ago. We had no income tax. And all we had was tariffs.
Boom. So this is your new Commerce Secretary. And that's his mindset. I mean, he's taking us back to the turn of the century when America was, as he says, in its greatest moment, with no income tax and only tariffs. Think about that, just walking into government with that mindset. I just hope that he is successful in executing that. We also have to worry about Mike Rogers. Mike Rogers declaring his full support for FISA wiretapping. He also says he wishes Intel community didn't need a warrant. People want him as the FBI director. No. We do not want Mike Rogers as the FBI director. He will only protect the deep state.
And we need to. And I credit George Bush and his administration for assembling this new intelligence community. They passed the Patriot bill that allows and takes the handcuffs off our intelligence services. Policy.
You going to support the Patriot Act? Guess what? We ain't going to support you. Bottom line. No thank you, sir. So many great things are happening right now. We got this message here. This is Western Lensman. Democrats, Trump can't use the military to help deport illegals. Oh, no, he can't. Also, Democrats calling in the National Guard to deport 50 illegals out of Martha's Vineyard to a military base within 48 hours of their arrival. Remember that? Was it DeSantis that sent them, or was it, I think it was DeSantis that sent them up to Martha's Vineyard. Genius move by DeSantis. They called in the military right away and sent them to a military base. Oh, but they're afraid that Donald Trump is going to go ahead and deploy the military. See, Donald Trump is going to declare a national emergency, and he will have emergency power with that. Any time a national emergency is declared, there are extraordinary powers granted to the executive branch. We witnessed that during the pandemic. So Donald Trump declaring a national emergency and then whoosh, just sweeping in and removing all of the illegals. Now they're giving him a chance. They're giving him a warning. Hey guys, maybe you should start heading for the door now. Maybe start heading for the door. If you didn't come here legally, you got to go. Just come back legally. Do it like everybody else does. Elon Musk about to drop the DOGE hammer 14 hours ago. U.S. government may lose between $233 billion and $521 billion to fraud each year. This is according to a new report. The United States is getting scammed out of hundreds of billions of dollars. This is identity theft. First of its kind analysis based on spending between 2018 and 2022 follows a week after the White House endorsed new legislation to crack down on fraud, including identity theft. Wow. Just fraud alone. I mean, think about how Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy could step in to clean up that mess. Michael Malice tweeting this just a day ago. Holy F, he is not messing around. The Trump team believes that such camps could enable the government to accelerate deportations of undocumented people who fight their expulsion from the country. The idea is that more people would voluntarily accept removal instead of pursuing a long-shot effort to remain in the country if they had stayed locked up in the interim. So it sounds like they're going to straight up be rounding people up, putting them in camps. Holy cow, that's a terrifying consideration. But Chicago One Ray says this: Thomas Hodgson, former sheriff of Bristol County, Massachusetts, says Mayor Wu has no authority. Remember, we covered this yesterday. The mayor of Boston says she's not going to comply. Well, guess what? If there's an emergency declared by the president, you don't really have much of a choice. Let's hear what they're saying on this topic.
He joins me now. Sheriff Hodgson, good morning to you. So it's interesting because we're starting to see almost the exact same statement coming from every Democrat lawmaker who plans on being a thorn in Donald Trump's side when it comes to illegal immigration. You heard Michelle Wu in Boston, Katie Hobbs in Arizona say, well, his mass deportation plan is going to threaten the residents of our areas. Do they have a leg to stand on when it comes to what they're saying?
Good morning, Carly. Thanks for having me. Absolutely not. Look, these are people who are elected to public office to protect the safety and security of the people of America, the citizens of the United States and the legal residents who are here. And for them to suggest somehow that it would be dangerous to the people who are going to be deported is outrageous. The dangers are already here, and they're happening because of these people pouring in over the border, these gangs, these transnational gangs, these people who are on the terrorist watch list. They're all in this country. And if your responsibility is to protect the people of your community, how in God's name can you say that by enforcing our existing laws that you've encouraged people not to follow is somehow hurtful to the American people? It's the complete opposite.
Yeah, it's a great point. And
so we're going to see some radical stuff happening when Donald Trump gets into office, and you can guarantee that the media is going to be in full meltdown. The perpetrators behind the greatest crimes against the American people are lawyering up.
Have bracing for possible revenge prosecutions from the incoming Trump administration. NBC News reports that some civil servants who work on a government salary have proactively reached out to lawyers. That's according to 3 people with knowledge of their deliberations. They're worried about the effect of long and costly legal battles. Joining me here in studio, NBC News senior executive editor for national security, David Rode, who reported this story. Also with us, Glenn Kirshner, a former federal prosecutor and MSNBC legal analyst. It's good to have you here, David. A lot of DOJ staffers we had been hearing and you had been reporting were saying there was some nervousness about what might happen, about, frankly, what has been said about the plans for going after people who they felt unfairly went after them. But how has the choice of Matt Gaetz changed the equation, or has it?
It has, and that's the difference. There was worry about congressional investigations. They expected that, but the choice of Gaetz, which was, I think, a real surprise to many people inside the DOJ, signaled everywhere, yes, that he's a lawyer, but he's had no experience prosecuting cases. But most of all, he is a firebrand loyalist, a very vocal supporter of President Trump. And it's seen by people as a choice. It's someone who Trump trusts, and someone who, given the ethics investigation, sort of owes Trump. Trump is sort of protecting him by giving him this new job just before the ethics report comes out. So it has raised fears that there could actually be criminal investigations and prosecutions by the Trump administration of career DOJ and FBI officials.
Yeah, well, if they committed crimes, then maybe it's time for them to do the time. And, of course, we have this. Why is there an industrial paper shredding truck parked outside the DOJ right now? These criminals are in freaking scorched earth mode with Matt Gaetz coming in. That's why they're destroying evidence. This is the picture that has gone viral today on X. They are in the middle of a shredding operation. And I jokingly posted the other day a picture of all these. I had an AI generated image and I posted this picture on X, and it showed Washington D.C. and it had all these little plumes of black smoke coming from all the different bureaucracies, and basically was saying, yeah, they're getting their fires started. But no, now they're getting their shredders started. And we have this happening too. Yeah, they are taking over the Senate. They took over the Senate office building today. Okay. Is this considered an insurrection too? Oh, just more radical leftists. Look at them. Get out of here. But that's what they do. And then we have this. Here's Joe Biden. Reporters literally screaming as they desperately try to get Biden to answer their question. He ignores them and ascends the short stairs and heads back to Washington, D.C. I'm guessing that he was, this is his return trip from when they found him in the jungle. I guess he wandered off into the jungle in the Amazon and gave them like $50 billion or something to protect the rainforest. But I'm really excited for the Howard Lutnick as Commerce Secretary. I'm interested to see how he executes the tariff plan. You know, I told you that Ron Paul doesn't think it's something feasible to swap the income tax for tariffs. But if they're able to execute it effectively, I'm all for it. Meanwhile, we got Kamala Harris. Yeah, she's on vacation right now. She's in Hawaii as World War III. We stand on the brink of it. Crazy idea. Okay, so here's, speaking of the taxes, here's Elon Musk posting this crazy idea. Let's simplify the tax code. How about just get rid of it altogether? This guy says Americans spend $546 billion trying to figure out their taxes because the tax code is 10 million words of incomprehensible legalese.
Colleague Rich, the American people spend over $500 billion per year defending themselves against the IRS. That's spitting distance from the $800 billion the Department of Defense spends protecting us against foreigners, well, failing to protect us in the case of the border. So forget Ukraine, forget ISIS. The calls are coming from inside the House. The number comes from my based colleague Richard Stern, who reports on a new tax foundation study that the income tax costs Americans $546 billion per year in compliance alone, compared to our national defense budget at $849, which is supposed to protect the American people, yet completely fails to protect us from the IRS. Note
and of course, the IRS fails. The Department of Defense and the Pentagon, they fail all of their audits. And we're also learning that we have the Department of Education also failed its audits in the last couple of years. Meanwhile, of course, the charges against Matt Gaetz, they're trying to amplify these on the mainstream media, but nobody listens to mainstream media anymore. So lots of great things are happening. We're going to keep a close watch on all of these things, bring you the latest of Vivek Ramaswamy posting that Milton Friedman video. That was the icing on the cake today. And there you have it. The dream team that's going to help President Trump take America back, from healthcare to education, from digital currency to international trade. Every appointment is a direct hit to the deep state's power structure. And speaking of taking power back, make sure you go and grab our latest MAGA Avengers collection at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. There it is on the screen. Yes, you can find it all there. Some cool stuff. Now, here's what I want you to think about and drop your thoughts in the comments. If Trump's transition team is already causing this much panic in Washington with just these appointments, what do you think will happen when they actually take office? Are we witnessing the final days of the administrative state as we know it? I want to hear from you. All right, folks. Who is here in the house? Let's see. Any super chats today? Super chats kind of light on the super chats today, it looks like. Any more? Nope, just Apogee Health dropping a 20 spot. Well, thank you for that. Going back into our chat room. Chat. Okay, let's see here. How far will they go? I like turtles, says Daniel. Shredders for the papers and wood chippers for the rest. Make grubment tiny again. Well, wish you well at the IRS. The government is a giant racket. Form 86, the IRS. Steve Bannon said Project 2025 is Trump agenda. Trump said, I don't do anything with that. Abolished the Federal Reserve. Never was supposed to be put in until back in the day. Rockefeller had the... Yep. Yes, he did. Okay. All right, let's get into our next topic of the evening. Okay. The legal walls built to stop Trump, they aren't just cracking patriots, they are imploding. The Georgia Court of Appeals just canceled oral arguments in the Fonnie Willis RICO case. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg is desperately postponing Trump's sentencing until 2029. And even the most hostile judges are backing down. Remember all these walls closing in headlines? Well, the only walls closing in are the ones around these corrupt prosecutors' careers. We've got exclusive footage of the moment these cases started crumbling, and wait until you see what document just surfaced, and that could end these witch hunts once and for all. And Patriots, while Trump is winning these legal battles, let me tell you about another winner, Chuck Norris. Just like Trump's defeating these corrupt cases, Chuck's defeating Father Time itself. At 83, he's still kicking butt, and he's revealed the secret behind his unstoppable energy. Like these crumbling court cases, Chuck's proving the experts wrong about aging. He's made a shocking video explaining how one simple change keeps him feeling younger, decades younger. So don't miss his game-changing revelation at chuckdefense.com/next. If it works for Chuck Norris, imagine what it could do for you. We thank our sponsors for making this show possible. Okay, so this was the big news. Georgia court cancels arguments in Trump's appeal to disqualify Fonnie Willis. Now, let's take a look at this post. This was just made... I've never seen this post of Fonnie Willis. This goes back to March, however. And this is Phil Holloway. Who's Phil Holloway? Dad, crime studier, police analyst. He works townhall.com. Okay, so he's on our side. Let's see. To recap, Fonnie Willis says her reputation's intact. She's not embarrassed. She's not done anything illegal. She's a role model for women, and she's the face of the feminist movement. Let's listen. I've never actually heard her speak in this capacity, so let's listen.
Like my reputation needs to be reclaimed. Let's say it for the record. I'm not embarrassed by anything I've done. I guess my greatest crime is I had a relationship with a man, but that's not something that I find embarrassing in any way. And I know that.
Wait. My greatest crime was having a relationship with a man? But I'm not embarrassed? What the hell does that even mean? My greatest crime was having a relationship with a man. But I'm not embarrassed by that. What? That's the mindset of these people.
In any way, and I know that I have not done anything that's illegal. And so I don't feel like my reputation needs to be reclaimed. And when I tell you the outpouring of women, and I'll tell you this, especially African American women who will just say, we are so proud, you are such a good representative of us. But I would be lying to say it's only African American women. I have had Caucasian women, Asian women, Indian women. I told Jeff one day, I didn't think I was the face of the feminist movement, but somehow I became it. And I think that women feel like women are treated differently when they're professionals, and they're proud to see someone that is strong and trying to do the right job. Certainly flawed, like every human being is flawed. My father has a saying, only one perfect man walked the face of the earth, and they crucified him. I am not a perfect human being, but what I am is a hardworking human being and a human being that loves the community I serve and who understands this seat does not belong to me. It belongs to the people, and as long as I'm here, I'm going to try to do the job in a way that's honorable.
Yeah, well, you're basically dishonoring your entire party and your office. Here is Jim Jordan.
The Fonnie Willis stopping this political targeting, political cases. We all know the Fonnie Willis case, the Alvin Bragg case, and the Jack Smith cases were all driven by politics. The American people understood it. That's why they had this overwhelming win. One of the reasons this overwhelming win for President Trump. So I'm against the retribution. I'm against the Justice Department saying if you're a mom and dad showing up at a school board meeting, we're going to investigate you. I'm against the FBI putting together a memorandum at the Richmond field office which said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist.
So I just
we want all that to stop.
I just want to put a button on this. So what you are saying is that
stopping this political targeting, political.
Well, now that Donald Trump is president, it's all coming to a halt. The Georgia Court of Appeals has abruptly canceled oral arguments in the Fonnie Willis RICO case against Trump, which suggests they may dismiss the case entirely. Court of Appeals of the state of Georgia, here is the official document that was filed on November 18th. The Court of Appeals hereby passes the following order, and it has all these points. Donald John Trump versus the state. Oral arguments scheduled to take place December 5th at 10:30 are hereby canceled until further order of the court. Michael Roman, David Schaefer, Robert David Cheeley, Mark Randall Meadows, Donald John Trump, Kathleen Latham, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani, Jeffrey Bossert Clark, Harrison Floyd. All of these cases gone. But what happens to all the people who already, they pled something, they did a plea deal, plea agreement? What happens to those cases? Do those get thrown out? Or do they stick? That's the question. Maybe you guys watching, you can answer this in the comment section. I mean, wasn't Sidney Powell? Didn't she have something going on? She was part of this whole thing, and she basically pled guilty to being a part of this, and then, she pled out, and there's Jenna Ellis, I think she was also a part of this. She pled guilty, if I recall. So what happens to all those cases? I mean, what happened to the pastor? I don't see the pastor's name in here. What happened to the pastor we interviewed here? He was a co-defendant in the case. I don't see his name. Interesting. Well, I'm going to have to follow up with that. Okay, so let's continue taking a look at all of the headlines related to this. Georgia Court of Appeals has canceled a scheduled oral argument over prosecutor Fonnie Willis's continued participation. Bye-bye. Corrupt judge overseeing the hush money hoax against Trump also suspended their sentencing date. Even crooked Mershon knows they can't jail Trump at all. Bragg's office now has to file a brief explaining to the court why the case should proceed. So the hush money case, bye-bye. All that out the window. Jonathan Turley posting 12 hours ago, Bloomberg's reporting the court has again postponed any decision in the Trump case in Manhattan. This is now the longest performance of Hamlet in history as Judge Mershon continues to debate whether to be or not to be a sentencing judge in the Trump case. Let's listen in.
And Mershon originally gave himself into. So the case against Trump has been delayed. New York Judge Juan Mershon has decided to delay his ruling on whether to toss President-elect Trump's felony fraud case. And Mershon originally gave himself until today, 1 week after Election Day, to decide whether the 34-count indictment should stand, but ultimately elected to postpone that for a week until next Tuesday. So Mershon can decide how Trump's election will or win, rather, should or should not impact the criminal case. And I want to add this because we got a statement in by a spokesperson for the president-elect just in the last 30 minutes about that was actually a request from Trump's camp. We'll get into more of that, but I put all that off the top. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner here with my co-hosts, Emily Campagno and Kayleigh McEnany. Also joining us today, Kayleigh McGee-White, Journalism Fellow for the Steamboat Institute and Senior Fellow for the Independent Women's Forum. And Steve Hilton, Fox News contributor. Great to see you all. Trump's spokesperson, again, has reacted to the judge's postponement in a statement, and here it is. The American people have re-elected President Trump with an overwhelming mandate to make America great again. It is now abundantly clear that Americans want an immediate end to the weaponization of our justice system, including this case, which should never have been filed, so we can, as President Trump said in his historic victory speech, unify our country and work together for the betterment of our nation. Fox's contributor and law professor at George Washington University, John Turley. Jonathan, we were talking last hour, and now a little bit more time has passed. Any fresh thoughts on November 19th and what we could see?
Well, the Trump administration, I think, can take some solace that they'll have a chance now to argue that the case should be dismissed. But I don't think expectations can be particularly high given this judge's track record. He has not shown any great balance at the trial. I was surprised in watching the trial to see some of his rulings, which frankly didn't make a lot of sense to me. I thought that he had left layers of reversible error, but none of that can be reviewed until this is finalized. Now, some have suggested that the judge could just freeze this for the upcoming term, to leave it in pendency. I just don't see that type of suspension as a likely or good option. You would have the president's critics saying that he's awaiting sentencing after a jury found him guilty of felonies. They need to have a status that where they can appeal this case, including the decisions made by this judge. Now, it is possible in a week that he could yield to calls for dismissal. You know, many have, including myself, felt that this case should never have been brought, that the judge made an unholy mess of it. In my view, it would be good to send the attractions back to their cages and call this circus over. But I wouldn't necessarily bet the farm on that one.
Wow. So, I mean, think about what he's saying there. Holding it over until Trump gets out of office. And that's the echo you will hear in the media. He's awaiting trial, awaiting sentencing for the entire 4 years that he's in office. And then we have this. This was just posted a couple days ago on the E. Jean Carroll case based on information provided to the Second Circuit Court on appeal of that case against Trump. The verdict should be overturned. The president's attorneys weren't allowed to cross-examine the so-called victim, and there was never a police report either.
He was unable to. Good morning, y'all. My name is Will Scharf. I'm one of President Trump's attorneys. Today, we presented oral argument before the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit in one of two cases brought against President Trump by E. Jean Carroll. Now, it's really important to remember that E. Jean Carroll's story at its heart is an utterly implausible he said, she said story. There is no corroboration for anything she has ever claimed about President Trump. There are no corroborating witnesses. As President Trump alluded to, there is not confirmatory DNA. No police report was filed at the time of this alleged incident. She was unable to identify when this incident occurred until quite recently. No surveillance evidence or witnesses have ever been found or come forward confirming any aspect of E. Jean Carroll's story. In light of that, in light of the utter implausibility of the story that E. Jean Carroll was attempting to sell to the jury in this case, her attorneys introduced evidence that should have never seen the inside of a courtroom. Utterly insane efforts to introduce propensity witnesses, Jessica Leeds and Natasha Stoynoff, most notably, in an unfair and improper effort to buttress E. Jean Carroll's failed attempt to assault President Trump. Jessica Leeds' story is instructive here. This is a woman who claims that in the middle of a crowded airliner in 1979, President Trump assaulted her. Leeds has never been able to identify where this plane departed from, where it went to, the date of the flight in question, making our efforts to disprove her testimony extremely difficult. Under the federal rules of evidence, this story should have never been allowed to be presented to the jury in this case. The same is true of Natasha Stoynoff's story, which again lacks any indicia of reliability, any sort of credibility, any sort of confirmatory testimony from other witnesses, or anything else that would make you believe that this actually happened. So on the one hand, you have a judge who allowed in this improper propensity evidence that should not have been allowed in. In our view, that polluted the jury's deliberations in this case. That presented a story to the jury of a series of a pattern of conduct that the jury should not have been considering. And we think that absent that propensity evidence, no fair jury could have reached the verdict that was reached in this case. And as a result, we believe that this verdict needs to be overturned. But there's
boom, overturned, just like everything else. It is all collapsing. Statement from Donald Trump 9 hours ago from the communications director at the Trump campaign, Stephen Chung, on President Trump's total and definitive victory against Alvin Bragg. This is a total and definitive victory for President Trump and the American people who elected him in a landslide. The Manhattan DA has conceded that this witch hunt cannot continue. The lawless case is now stayed, and President Trump's legal team is moving to get it dismissed once and for all. Bye-bye. Another victory for President Trump. Charlie Kirk posting 12 hours ago. Judge Merchan adjourns the New York City case against Trump without delivering sentencing for hush money case. Even if Trump's convictions were to be upheld, the president-elect has a myriad of ways to appeal the case or get the charges against him dismissed. And here is CNN crying about it.
Paula, tell us what you... We have breaking news coming into CNN right now. The Manhattan District Attorney has agreed to postpone Donald Trump's sentencing in his criminal hush money trial. The president-elect was found guilty of 34 felonies in his case.
Like so many things involving the president-elect, this is uncharted territory, with Trump being the first convicted felon elected to the nation's highest office. We're covering this from all angles, and we begin with CNN's Paula Reed. Paula, tell us what you've learned.
You hear how they frame it, the first convicted felon.
Been waiting for this decision because the question is what happens to President-elect Trump's sentencing that is scheduled for next week. And here what we're learning is that the district attorney has made it clear they're going to reject and try to defend against any effort to dismiss this case, but they are open to delaying this sentencing for up to 4 years because they understand that it's going to take time to litigate this issue of the future of this case. So they do not agree to dismiss this case, but while that question is being litigated, they understand that the sentencing has to be paused. So President-elect Trump will not be sentenced next week. And the next step is the two parties will litigate this issue. And again, they understand that the sentencing, if it goes forward, may not happen for another 4 years.
Yeah, how ridiculous is that? You're going to hold it out for another 4 years? So, Jack Lombardi posting this. Friend of mine, make sure you follow him on X. Adjourned. Judge and DA weaponizing justice against President-elect Trump. The adjournment of President-elect Donald Trump's sentencing in New York isn't just a delay. It's further proof the legal system is being weaponized for political warfare. Judge Juan Merchan and DA Alvin Bragg have turned what should be impartial justice into a shameless attack on Trump designed to sway public opinion and interfere with his leadership. And it is all falling apart in real time. So there you have it. Trump's legal victories are stacking up faster than we can count them. Georgia, Manhattan, D.C., the whole house of cards is tumbling down. And just like these victories, you can celebrate with our new MAG Avengers collection at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Nothing says I told you so, like wearing it proudly. Now here's the bombshell question I want you to wrestle with in the comments. If these cases were so rock solid, according to the mainstream media, why are they all falling apart right after Trump's election victory? And more importantly, who should be investigated for orchestrating this coordinated legal assault on a sitting or soon-to-be sitting president? Should these prosecutors face their own day in court? I want to hear from you. All right, folks, let's jump down to the chat room and see what you guys are saying on this one. Find Soros, transport him to Gitmo. Yeah, but legally, they can't say that never could not a convicted felon until sentencing. Alvin looks goofy. Whoever heard of a 4-year sentencing delay, right, Annette? Whoever heard of that? And Ray Epps is still a Fed, says Best Butcher. But is this movie a comedy? So ready for this to be over. Parmis, yes, so am I. TD Gaming, love you, Gary. What's up, man? Love you too. Even so, we love our felon president just the same. Kuka D. Oh boy. All right. Tweety Pie says CNN sucks. All right. Let's get to our fourth segment of the evening. Lots to unpack here today. Lots to unpack. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Let's see, where's that one message, that one tweet I want to start it off with? Okay, here we go. Okay. Right now, FEMA is in full damage control mode, Patriots, as new whistleblowers expose a shocking pattern of discrimination against Trump supporters. Chairman James Comer just revealed devastating testimony about FEMA contractors telling families to remove Trump signs to simply get help. Meanwhile, Americans are freezing in tents while FEMA officials sleep in heated RVs. We've got exclusive footage from FEMA Director Deanne Criswell's congressional testimony that left AOC speechless. And wait until you hear the latest whistleblower's account about what happened to an elderly disabled veteran. The discrimination isn't just real, it's systemic. And Patriots, while FEMA is discriminating against Americans, your personal data is facing discrimination too. Just like FEMA contractors targeting Trump supporters, hackers are targeting your devices. That's why you need Virtual Shield Antivirus Pro. While FEMA officials try to cover their tracks, Virtual Shield protects yours, blocking malware and security threats before they reach you. Don't let them compromise your digital security like they're compromising disaster relief. Go to virtualshield.com/nextnews for a 7-day free trial and save up to 75% during their Black Friday special. Protect yourself before it's too late. And we thank Virtual Shield for their sponsorship of this program. Okay, so the big news that just dropped today, FEMA was getting grilled on Capitol Hill. Representative James Comer says there is a new FEMA whistleblower. My staff just made contact with a new whistleblower who provided a credible account that a FEMA contractor visited the home of an elderly disabled veteran's family around October 10th. While there, he recommended the family remove Trump campaign materials and signs from their house and yard, stating that his FEMA supervisors view Trump supporters as domestic terrorists. The elderly homeowner were so frightened by this and afraid that they would not recover their loss, they removed the signs. Nevertheless, FEMA has not returned to their residence. This took place not in Florida, but in Georgia. And this just goes to show that this is systemically baked into FEMA. And now we have, this is Comer discussing that today in the Oversight Committee.
During the recess for votes, my staff made contact with a new whistleblower who provided a credible account that a FEMA contractor visited the home of an elderly disabled veteran's family around October 10th following Hurricane Helene. While there, the FEMA contractor recommended that the family remove Trump campaign materials and signs from both their house and their yard. He warned the family that his FEMA supervisors do not take kindly to Trump supporters and that they seem as domestic terrorists. The elderly homeowners were so frightened by this and afraid that they would not recover their loss that they removed all Trump materials and signs. Nevertheless, FEMA has not returned to their residents. This took place not in Florida, but in Georgia. Administrator, we're happy to provide you with more information on this, but we and the American people want to know what FEMA is doing to ensure that political discrimination is not dictating how the American people are receiving aid following a disaster. During the recess for votes, my staff...
That was only the beginning. FEMA director says criticism of the agency is misinformation. The Biden administration has weaponized federal agencies just as the Obama administration did. This is an article posted by the Federalist. So anytime you criticize a government agency, it's simply misinformation. That's how they're framing everything. We saw this during the hurricane response. FEMA Director Diane Criswell confirms employees avoided Trump's home, promises Inspector General probe. Instead of addressing the Daily Wire's shocking report that FEMA leaders instructed staff to avoid homes with Trump signs, AOC's, she dismisses the incident is not a policy at scale and claims that allegations against FEMA are very large and influential pieces of disinformation. Okay, but when that woman comes out and she confirms it, she goes on does multiple interviews. Really? That's misinformation? Disinformation? Okay, AOC, do your best. Let's listen to AOC do her best gaslighting now.
But I wanted to move a little bit into your work and what we're seeing now in the current information environment, especially after a disaster. Administrator Criswell, recently in North Carolina and with these storms and hurricanes that have hit this year, there have been very large-scale moments of disinformation regarding FEMA, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
One of those that I've just seen is this idea that, and I'm going to ask you if this is true or not, and I apologize that I even have to ask you some of these things, but I think it's important for the American people to see in a setting like this, where we have to swear to tell the truth, that we see officially on the record that these things are not true. The first point being that the suggestion that FEMA assistance was only a $750 loan that would have to be paid back, and if not, FEMA would seize the homes of everyday people who may not be able to make that back in such a catastrophic moment. Is that correct?
That is completely inaccurate.
Completely false, correct? But was it in your assessment, and did you see lots of people believing this on the ground or in the field?
I was on the ground for over 3 weeks in North Carolina, and I did hear from people on the ground asking me, is this real or is this not real?
Another one that I also saw very widely circulated, that FEMA did not have enough money to provide relief services because that allocation of funds went to either undocumented immigrants, aid to Ukraine, or even aid to the Israeli government. Is that correct, that FEMA's funds were allocated away to those causes?
Completely inaccurate.
Completely false. On the record, completely false. Correct.
And she's under oath. Remember that.
And other things that we've seen as well, that it's standing policy for FEMA to politically discriminate. We know that that's not true, correct?
Correct.
And there was an incident we see, but that individual was fired, and that this is not a policy at scale, correct?
Correct.
Now, we know that these are important.
Okay, but she actually said the orders came from above her. The one who got fired is running around whistleblowing, saying the orders came from above and that she's being thrown under the bus. Don't forget that. Here we have Congressman Michael Cloud, who declares FEMA's top priority is listed as instilling equity as a foundation of emergency management and asking the question, why is DEI the focus of disaster response? Yeah, I think everybody wants to know that.
Is they ask, and I will point to this, FEMA's current strategic plan lists 3 goals. The first goal is to instill equity. We know that these DEI initiatives have had a discriminatory aspect in it. We've seen a lot of companies now having embraced it out of altruistic means, but understanding that what they do is they ask us to discriminate proactively. One of the things it mentions is this plan lists racial minorities, even religious minorities, as individuals who should be the beneficiaries of equity. So I would ask you, who's a religious majority, or religious or a racial majority? Does FEMA make decisions about resources distributed according to these policies? Because this is in the strategic plan. And so whatever your case is on this, you're asking your employees to make distinguishment between individuals as opposed to just meeting a need. I tell people all the time in our office, we don't care who you are, we don't care what your voting record is, we don't care your background, your whatever. When you walk into our office, as many offices here, or even across the aisle, we're here to help and to help get your case through. I think that should be the very clear standing of FEMA, and I would encourage you to revise your strategic plan and rid it of all the DEI. We'll be addressing this actually in a markup, I think, tomorrow. But if you could do that, I think that would go a far way to making sure we have a proactive culture to where it's very clear so these isolated incidences don't pop up. Because what we didn't see in that text thread was any pushback on that either. And that should have been clear, like, no, we're not about that. That's not what FEMA's about. And I would encourage you to do that. And
well, I hope they do. I mean, doling out disaster relief based on equity. And here is that FEMA employee speaking out after being fired. Tracy Beans says everyone's missing what this woman is doing. She's saying that Trump supporters are inherently violent and that it's FEMA's policy not to go where they are scared. No one is calling her out on this as she sits there deadpan explaining it.
You can ask and someone feels uncomfortable. We can't go to that home. If you have loose dogs and someone on the team is comfortable with dogs and another person is not, we can't go to that home because of safety precautions.
So you feared the Trump houses. The people on FEMA were fearing the Trump houses like they were fearing people with vicious dogs in their backyard.
Exactly. And just and that's based on the trends. You can ask FEMA and some
based on the trends. And here is aerial footage Matt Van Swol posted a day ago. Aerial footage he shot this morning of one of the many tent cities in western North Carolina due to Helene. FEMA says they don't exist, yet here it is. So where are you, FEMA? Why have you abandoned us? Here's a tent city of people just trying to survive in the aftermath of Helene. Of course, Chairman Comer revealing the new whistleblower. Here we have, Congressman Jeff Van Drew. Under the Biden administration, FEMA prioritizes politics over preparedness. Listen.
Values of do political affiliations with the Republican Party make someone inherently dangerous because they happen to be a Republican? Yes or no?
That is not in alignment with our core mission and our values of integrity, compassion, fairness, and respect.
And I agree, and I understand that, but think about this. People, when they are their most vulnerable, most in need, most scared, most worried, in the most trouble, probably in their entire lives, hardworking men and women of America, looking to a federal agency to protect them, to help them, to take care of them. And they got literally a knife in the heart. Wow. I mean, that's what this really represented. Those people, how do they feel? They break their back paying the taxes that keep us all going here. So when we finally are supposed to do a job, this is what happens. How heartbreaking is that?
Congressman, this was unacceptable, and it is heartbreaking.
I know.
I have pushed for 3.5 years to put people first.
And you know what?
Everything that we do.
And that's what kind of, and again,
You hear what she said? 3.5 years? She's referring to specifically the Biden administration. 3.5 years. They've implemented DEI policies.
And editorialize for a minute. We speak of equity, which is different than equality, and it's become a political symbol to some degree, whether folks want to admit it or not. We're worried about pronouns. We're worried about illegals. We're worried about everything, and I get it. But how about just worrying about the average man and woman who's working, who lives in America, who's legal, who pays their taxes, who obeys the laws, and finally needs help? Because most of these people never need help. They don't want anything. They get their Social Security when they retire, and that's about it. Just think how they feel. And I'm concerned. And I have to tell you, I have personally asked Joe Kufari, who is the Inspector General in Homeland Security, personally asked him, sent him a letter. He's a good man. He's an honest broker, to look into this and really dissect this and see what's going on. I
hope they do. But of course, anytime you question them, it's disinformation, right? Oh, and Jim Jordan, he wasn't taking any crap today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Administrator Criswell, is Miss Washington lying to us?
Miss Washington has...
She said it's common practice. You said it's reprehensible and isolated. Both statements can't be true. So someone's not giving us the facts. I'm kind of trying to figure out who's not telling the truth.
The actions that Miss Washington took were unacceptable.
Well, you had another employee. Now, they remain anonymous, but I think one of my colleagues pointed this out earlier. A FEMA official who spoke on condition of anonymity said Miss Washington likely received, quote, very clear guidance from her supervisors. Is that not accurate? Is that person lying too?
I have not received any evidence outside of the screenshot that Miss Washington directed.
So those two people are wrong. They're not telling the truth to us.
We are currently investigating this.
But that's not what you said. You said this is isolated, reprehensible, hasn't happened. This is the only time. And they're saying, nope, 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 it's commonplace.
I am saying that FEMA's mission is to help all people.
Well, let's look at maybe the best evidence we have is the actual screenshot. Can you put the screenshot up on the screen? Let's look at what the text message said. The text message said, implement best practices. Like, this is the best practices. We're going to implement them. And they talk about making sure you're going in pairs or with more than one person, avoid the Trump homes, drink your water, take your towel, coconut waters. So stay hydrated, walk with someone else, and don't go to the Trump homes. It seems pretty common and matter of fact in the actual evidence we do have, the text message itself. But you're still saying Miss Washington and this other person aren't telling the truth.
When I received this text message, it was not in accordance with the way we conduct business at FEMA, and I directed
Even though it said best practices, even though it said stay hydrated, which everyone would agree with, even though it said go in pairs, which everyone would agree with, even though it said bring a towel, make sure you're covered. I mean, it said coconut water is the best way to stay, even though it said all those practical things, the part about avoiding the Trump homes, that's not a best practice, that's not commonplace. Is that what you're saying?
That is nowhere in our policy, and I can't speak to
I'm not saying it's in your policy
behind what Miss Washington did.
But it was okay. Now, and her supervisors, this Mr. Hershey, have you talked to him and to find out if he knew this was happening?
I understand that he was in her chain of command, and this is under investigation.
Have you talked to there's 13 people on this text message. Have you talked to all 13 of those individuals?
This incident is under investigation.
That's not what I asked you. I know it's under investigation, and we know how investigations work when it's done inside the agency. It takes forever. I'm asking, did you talk to the 13 people on this best practices text message?
The Office of Professional Responsibility has taken this, and they are following appropriate protocol to investigate.
Is the Inspector General looking at it as well?
And I have asked the Inspector General to take a look at this.
Any idea when they're going to talk to these 13 people since you have it? Have you talked to, how about you personally? Have you talked to any of these 13 people?
I have not talked to them.
You have not talked to any of them?
I have an entire team that focuses on this investigation, and that's what they're doing.
Seems to me it's part of a mindset that's in government. And this is the scary part, because I think it's broader. And you don't have to take my word. Take it what people have said. I mean, this reminds me, we've talked about this many times, but I can think of, well, actually the same person, let's go back to that. The same person who said that this likely received very clear guidance, this other FEMA official, also said this: I've heard from other entities who are serving in North Carolina that there was clear guidance to be mindful, quote, of the types of people who are in Western North Carolina. That's pretty derogatory stuff there, isn't it?
I have not seen it.
But you know what it sounds like? It sounds like Peter Strzok. Peter Strzok, when he said, oh, I just went into Walmart, I can smell the Trump supporters. Sounds like Joe Biden when he said, oh, the garbage I see is the Trump supporters out there. Sounds like the guys the Democrats had, the professor the Democrats had testify back in 2019 in the impeachment. Conservatives, especially very conservative people, tend to spread out, perhaps because they don't even want to be around themselves. This disdain, this mindset that's in the government where everyone's deplorable, everyone's garbage, everyone is, smelly people at Walmart, and be mindful of those people in Western North Carolina. That's what it sounds like. And again, the best evidence is the text message we have, which reinforces that mindset that we have seen from so many people in our government.
The actions directed by Ms. Washington are unacceptable. And when I received this text message, I directed her termination.
Do you have any idea who this other, who this other official is?
I do not, and if you have that information, Congressman, please share it.
I don't have it. You're the one who's got it. You're the one who hasn't talked to the 13 people on the text message.
It has not been raised to me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I don't have it. I mean, what? She doesn't even know who is directing Miss Washington here? Oh, I don't know. Maybe if you have it, Mr. Jordan. I mean, this woman needs to resign her position immediately. In shame. Here's Corey Mills just 8 hours ago talking about the weaponized Department of Injustice for lawfare against political opponents, the discriminatory treatment of those in need to use disaster relief in FEMA.
This is an area. Look, I spent roughly 11 days in Western North Carolina, going from Asheville to Banner Elk to Pensacola, North Carolina to Bat Cave to all the impacted and hard-hit areas. And I can tell you that during that time period, we didn't see FEMA out there doing anything. This is an area which is predominantly red. But to your point, what we witnessed is that areas that had 70 to 80% who had voted for Trump were the ones that was actually being discriminated against. I don't think this is necessarily a best practice. I think this is political weaponization, which has continued to go on since the weaponization of the IRS and before. And so I think that what we need to be getting is answers on how it's okay for a political party to start actually using taxpayers' funding or withholding taxpayers' funding based on your political affiliations. Look,
that's where we're at. That's where we're at with this administration. The toxic hatred of Trump supporters. Tim Burchett was there. This is his takeaway following the hearing.
I was asking her, hey everybody, Tim Burchett, just leaving oversight committee. The head of FEMA was in there. Everybody was asking her about the folks from FEMA that weren't helping out people that had Trump signs in front of their house. And we've got more. I've got a whistleblower that's come forward now and said there's more than that. The person did it was apparently let go. I asked about the investigation, and we got a lot of legal talk about how we're investigating that, and the way that'll work out is get right close to the end, and then they might issue a report, and they might not. Just crooked as far as I'm concerned. That's disgusting. If they'd and then of course my colleague from Texas, she's in there across the aisle making the point it was only 21 people, 21 households. And can you imagine the outrage if it had been, say, a group that they refused to help somebody because of their religious beliefs or their, where their families were from or something. It's just total double standard, as always. But I wanted to get into how their reimbursement schedule was differentiated between North Carolina and Tennessee, and the cost share is different, and it's 45 days for Tennessee, and I think 120 or something or more for North Carolina. So there's a big differentiation. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. Not real sexy, but it affects the reimbursement from the state and ability to pay people that are actually going to do the contract or do the cleanup, because it sure as heck won't be a federal employee.
Oh man, I'm glad this hearing happened today. And this is all because the Daily Wire broke this story. Here's more from Matt Van Swal. There are Americans freezing in tents while FEMA officials are sleeping in heated RVs. Look at this beautiful FEMA camp set up just for FEMA as Americans freeze to death. Oh, and let's talk about that $750, shall we?
Through a very, do you see the absurdity that American citizens are getting their $750 and then, yes, struggling through a very complicated process to meet the thresholds necessary to get the aid they need to have housing, food, and shelter, while your agency is contracting with not-for-profits to easily hand out access to those who are here, placed here illegally? Do you see the absurdity?
Congressman, our mission is to support people, help people before, during, and after disasters. And
do you think that there is, ma'am, do you think in responding to an emergency, the priority of government ought to be to ensure that American citizens are triaged and that the services of FEMA are focused on responding to them and their service programs first?
I absolutely believe that the services that FEMA provides should be supporting the people that have been impacted by disasters.
Should there be equity in that distribution and response? Should there be fairness in that response?
We should make sure that all people have access to our programs and that we
Fair
remove
enough.
the barriers.
So this is my time and I get 2 minutes to do it. So in fairness, do you not see the inequity in those placed here illegally having taxpayers support a plane ticket, a house, a hotel, food, cell phones, access to health care? Do you not see the inequity that they have access immediately? I want us to be a welcoming nation, but if we cannot respond to those who are living in emergencies, then we do not have the right to claim that we are the Federal Emergency Management Administration. Do you not see the inequity?
Congress directed.
No, Congress established law. You have to prioritize, triage, and decide. During COVID, there were federal agencies and local governments who were responsible for providing lots of services. We said, in this emergency, you're not going to do that. We told federal employees, get back out onto the ground because you've got to respond to a public health pandemic, and most of them were never involved in public health response. You established the priority. Why can you not say today that the priority ought to have been to make sure that American citizens were getting first response, adequate response, and not distracted response? Why can you not say that?
Our priority is the American people, and we administered our disaster programs.
And you will not admit to or acknowledge the inequities. I'm not trying to be combative. This is absurd. Today, when you spent some time and my colleagues talk about misinformation, first, misinformation is freedom of speech, whether it's true or not. But you know what fuels misinformation? The inequity that FEMA has engaged in, because it allows for people to assume, whether true or not, a level of either incompetence, inefficiency, or lack of concern for those who are struggling the most when they see individuals enter this country illegally and then are transported here and receiving services. And you know that it is easier to access the shelter and services funding than it is to access disaster relief aid, housing assistance, small business aid. You know that it's more complicated. Doesn't that in and of itself fuel the misinformation?
Congressman, we are administering that program as directed by Congress.
You are not administering the program as directed by Congress. We established the law, we established the provisions, and we expect the person, whether it's the president or the administrator of FEMA, to decide what is and is not priority in response to emergency. And by that very measure, with all due respect, the agency has failed. And
the agency has failed. They are on the hot seat today. Here's more. Oversight Committee puts the fire on FEMA administrators saying we give $10,000 to an illegal citizen to come to our country, get a plane ticket, get a hotel stay, but then we offer victims of Hurricane Helene $750.
Looking at programs and resources that are available to a citizen of a different country that came illegally into the United States under the FEMA administered program using nonprofits, you could be eligible for housing, for food, for transportation, for healthcare costs, and others. I was able to come, looking at the very documents that these nonprofits were using, I was able to get to a figure in excess of $10,000 for an individual, let me make note again, that is a citizen of a foreign country. How would I explain to a taxpayer that a taxpayer, a citizen of the United States, is eligible for $750, yet a citizen of a foreign country under your agency is still eligible for assistance of $10,000? How would I explain that to somebody?
Congressman, the resources that are available to people impacted by disasters are a variety of resources, and that $750 payment is just to cover those immediate needs. They are eligible for $42,500 in fiscal year 24 for housing assistance and $42,500 for other needs assistance. Those are the programs that are available to people that were impacted by disasters.
So it's very clear that today, and I just visited North Carolina just a few weeks ago, it's very clear to me that there are folks that are in need right now. The disparity that exists in that a citizen of a foreign country that broke the law and came here illegally is they can get a plane ticket paid for, they can get a hotel room paid for, I think 200 and something bucks a night, if I remember right, in some of the areas of maybe around Midland, Texas, somewhere around there. Again, healthcare, food, clothing. We have citizens of our own country that I engaged in North Carolina weeks and weeks after the disaster that have some of those same needs. This is ridiculous. It really is. And I understand that all of these decisions aren't yours, but Administrator, you understand the ridiculousness of this situation, that we're not helping our own citizens, yet we're out there using our own taxpayer dollars when we have a debt right now of $35 trillion as a nation, and we're helping out citizens of other countries when we're not even meeting the fundamental needs of our own citizens. This really is an unacceptable situation. And I think if I were in your situation, yes, I understand you're asking for $100 billion, but I think that we should be looking and asking for reprogramming opportunities, because we've got to prioritize the limited resources that our nation has and focus upon our own citizens.
Yeah, let's go. Focus on our own citizens. But of course, all that disinformation. Here is this is a photo that was snapped of AOC on the oversight committee working on her makeup while the discussion is about survivors not getting FEMA assistance. She is a waste of flesh and an embarrassment to our forefathers. Ralph Avalone saying that. Yeah, working on your makeup there, honey. Well, here's Byron Donalds raising some hell as well. Let's listen.
So Administrator Criswell, you told me at the beginning of this questioning that there is nothing in your policies that would dictate that this is to occur. Yet you have one official who was fired who said it does occur. You have another official under your purview, under the condition of anonymity, talking to the press that it does occur. But you can't verify to this committee that these practices do or do not occur. Is that correct?
I have been given no evidence and seen no indication that this goes beyond this one incident. If you have specific information, I would welcome that.
Are you prepared to turn over the communiques between your supervisors and their field representatives and upper-level management at FEMA to this committee?
We always cooperate with Congress on the information that they request, and we will continue to cooperate throughout this.
So you're prepared to turn over all those communications?
We are prepared to support requests for information to help support the ongoing investigation into this.
Chairman, I would move that it's clear that the administrator is more than prepared to share all communications with the Oversight Committee about various communications with field volunteers, volunteer staff on the ground, supervisors at FEMA headquarters here in Washington, D.C. Also, for the record, Chairman, I move that the article that I talked about, this is not an isolated incident, be submitted for the record.
Without objection.
Boom! Oh, imagine what those communications are going to reveal. Oh, it goes all the way to the top. And she's under oath, man. And she is getting roasted. There's nothing, Matt Benswell, there's nothing more infuriating than watching the director of FEMA complain about misinformation on social media. He says, when I drove down the road 45 minutes ago, I saw U.S. citizens living in tents.
Social media. Our workforce persevered through all of the challenges I've just described, and they also persevered through a difficult security environment generated by misinformation about FEMA's work spread through social media. We help all survivors, all people, obtain all of the assistance that they are qualified for under the law. And misinformation was making that work much more difficult.
Okay, so let's be clear here. When everybody on the ground was saying that they are not helping Trump supporters, it was called a conspiracy theory. Daily Wire breaks the story, brings out the text messages, reveals it to be true. The person is fired, goes on interviews revealing that the communiques go higher than her, and yet she's calling it all misinformation. No, you just got smoked, honey. The party is over. The mask has been ripped off of FEMA. Oh, wow.
My Congressman, you have my commitment that we will look into all of those projects, and you have my absolute determination that we do not discriminate against any state. We provide support for everyone impacted by disasters.
Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. She's under oath. And there it is. Irrefutable evidence of FEMA's politically motivated discrimination against Trump supporters. When federal agencies weaponize disaster relief, we are no longer living in a free republic. Show your support for the victims by wearing our new MAGA Avengers gear from shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. And now here's what should keep every American up at night. And I want to see your thoughts in the comments. If FEMA can deny help to Americans based on their political beliefs during natural disasters, what other federal agencies are doing the same? How deep does this discrimination go? And more importantly, how many Americans have suffered or even died because they dared to support the wrong candidate? Let me know. Drop a comment. Unbelievable. These people. I'm glad that hearing was held today. Oh, yeah. Nix FEMA. Bear Post, if you agree that AOC is a communist, say me. Triage based on skin color. Manhole welder, boots on the ground, eyewitnesses reporting is misinformation. Exactly, Manhole. Sandra, she says, you help all those that need help, except those with the Trump sign posted in their front yard, even if the owners of the property never put it there. She's reading a prepared speech instead of being able to answer the questions. Susudio 0530. Oh, yeah. AOC makes me nauseous. Ocean breathes salty. Dehydrated nurse says America is sick of this. Gargs 1961. Is she a DEI hire? Probably so. Oh, yeah. Okay, now we got to get into this. This is a heavy topic. This is all happening. This is all new information today regarding Russia and the doctrines that have changed that put us all at risk. Thank you, Joe Biden, for that. The world is teetering on the brink tonight, Patriots, as Vladimir Putin updates Russia's nuclear doctrine in direct response to Biden's reckless escalation in Ukraine. Just days after Ukraine used U.S.-supplied long-range missiles on Russian territory, Putin has lowered the threshold for nuclear response. We've got exclusive footage from Moscow showing Russian citizens' reactions and breaking updates from military analysts about Russia's dead hand system. But what the mainstream media won't tell you is how this ties directly to Biden's desperate attempts to start World War III just weeks before leaving office. So, Patriots, as we face these uncertain times with potential nuclear threats, it's crucial to protect your body from environmental stressors. Just as Putin's updating Russia's defense doctrine, you need to update your body's natural defenses, and that's where BioTrust Revolutionary Collagen Complex comes in. While world leaders play nuclear chess, your body's fighting against its own battle, aging. Don't let your natural collagen reserves deplete like our nation's strategic defenses under Biden. Act now at healthwithgary.com and get 51% off plus free VIP coaching. Prepare your body for whatever comes next. And we thank our sponsors for keeping this show running. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here in this story. Okay, we can start here. Just a few hours ago on CNN, the Swedish Prime Minister, who highlighted the strong European support for Ukraine, marking its 1,000 days of war, he says that that this is all a bluff from Vladimir Putin. Now, I don't know about you, but this is not a poker game. Okay, we're not playing chicken here. All right, on the highway. All right, we're not trying to dodge a train here and see who can stand on the tracks the longest. No. All right, we're talking about nuclear war, and he wants to say it's just a bluff. So we're going to continue. Let's listen to this guy.
That Mr. Putin is not convinced that his armies can deliver the was probably in Berlin. Why?
Thoughts of that call between the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and President Putin, the first call that the German Chancellor has made since the beginning of this war?
Not necessarily. Talking doesn't change very much, and it doesn't necessarily hurt. I think that's my guess. It was a reflection of two things. First, we have an election campaign coming up in Germany. Second, we have a new president coming into the United States who is evidently very keen to talk to President Putin. And then I think the feeling was probably in Berlin, why leave all of the talking to the Americans? But I don't think it changed very much.
The same day that the US gave Ukraine the green light to use these longer-term weapons, the longer-range weapons, the Kremlin updated its nuclear policy. Now, Moscow now says it reserves the right to use its nuclear deterrent to respond to aggression from any non-nuclear state if it's supported by a nuclear state. I mean, this is ratcheting up the rhetoric. Whether or not this is just propaganda remains to be seen. This certainly suggests that the situation has become more dangerous, not less, in the past 24 hours. How concerned are you at this point of the prospect of a wider conflict here impacting Europe very directly?
I mean, that particular change of nuclear doctrine was decided, I think, a couple of months ago by now, but it's now been formally ratified the other day. But I saw it at the time and see it today more as a sign of weakness, that Mr. Putin is not convinced that his armies can deliver the result on the battlefield that he wants, and then he needs to rattle the threat of nuclear use in order to scare the West and scare the Ukrainians into some sort of agreement, whatever that should be, or surrender to the Russian terms. I do think, to add to that we are in a dangerous situation. But I think that particular nuclear saber-rattling should be seen more as a sign of Russian weakness than a sign of Russian strength.
That's an interesting perspective. 2 undersea cables have been cut or broken in the Baltic Sea in as many days.
Okay. Brian, bring up that website. This is the Sun, the UK Sun, discussing what is going on in Germany. Germany planning for World War III. Brian, if you could bring that up, there it is. Germany planning for World War III with a 1,000-page secret document, Operation Deutschland, along with 800,000 NATO troops and 200,000 vehicles. British troops in a chilling NATO war exercise, training for war. Germany's World War III preparation plans have been revealed in a 1,000-page document, secret document. Comes after Nordic citizens were told to prepare for war and handed chilling survival guides out on Monday as tensions between Russia and Ukraine boil over. Operation Deutschland, Germany is drawing up plans for World War III. Military protection for key buildings, 800,000 NATO troops, 200,000 NATO vehicles, enlisting truck drivers and stockpiling for shortages. Germany is wrapping up its national security as fears loom that Vladimir Putin's bloody war in Ukraine may develop into a worldwide inferno. In recent weeks, North Korea has sent thousands of troops to support Mad Vlad, and on Tuesday, embattled Kyiv unleashed its first long-range missile into Russia. That's what's happening right now in Europe. And here we have more. Brian, we can go back to the feed. We have Good Morning America. Vladimir Putin signs a revised Russian doctrine. And we have video of these rockets that Ukraine launched. We're going to show you that in a moment. But let's listen to how ABC covered that.
Nuclear saber rattling from the Kremlin this morning, with Vladimir Putin appearing to threaten to use nuclear weapons if Ukraine fires American-made missiles into Russia. The Kremlin saying the doctrine was updated in response to what it calls the new situation. The new Russian policy essentially authorizes the use of nuclear weapons in response to what it calls, quotes, critical threats of aggression using conventional weapons. Now remember, President Biden lifting restrictions on the ATACMS ballistic missiles, which are, of course, conventional weapons, essentially allowing them to be fired into Russia. Putin has made nuclear threats before that have proved to be hollow. A senior Ukrainian military source telling me this is blackmail, but also warning nuclear weapons are a Pandora's box that shouldn't be opened. This move likely aimed as much at President-elect Trump, who's promising to end the war when he takes office, but it'll make that all the harder. Meanwhile, Russia again escalating attacks inside Ukraine, striking an apartment block in the north, killing 9, including a child. And for all the talk of peace plans, Ukraine today marking 1,000 days of Russia's devastating war with no end in sight. And just one final.
And here we have, okay, these are actual Russians on the street. This is CNN talking to Russians how they feel about Putin updating the nuclear doctrine.
Американский телеканал CNN. Можно? Можно. Хорошо. Сегодня утром ваш президент Владимир Putin.
This morning, signed an update to Russia's nuclear doctrine. What do you think about it? What is there to think about? What kind of response can there be? Only this kind. He has greatly expanded the possibility of using nuclear weapons. Do you think that's a good idea? What should our president do? He has to think of something. We need to scare someone.
Has increased now?
I don't think they will do it. It sounds like mad people. No, they are not mad people. They are very clever, not mad.
And we have this guy, Times Radio. Putin knows that ultimately he's in a weak position where he will be in war with NATO because he knows that Russia would be wiped out. And well, this is the guy that says it's a bluff. Russia's change to its nuclear doctrine, another bluff. This is Stefan Dalziel.
As yet, it's not about talking to Russian generals and giving them new instructions. It's trying to make the West think, oh, you know, we've made a mistake. The Americans have made a mistake by allowing ATACMS to be used on Russia against Russian targets on Russian territory. It is bluff, I'm afraid. I simply see it as yet another bluff. Putin.
Another bluff, yeah. We're not playing chicken with nuclear weapons here. ABC News had this to say: Russia's claiming it shot down U.S.-made missiles.
Vladimir Putin today marks 1,000 days since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, certainly a grim milestone in a war that only seems to be intensifying. Russian President Vladimir Putin this morning announcing new changes to his country's nuclear doctrine after President Biden authorized Ukraine to use American-made missiles to strike in the Kursk region of Russia. Now, the Kremlin is already claiming that it shot down some of those missiles. ABC News' Patrick Revel is reporting from inside Ukraine. Patrick?
Hi, Kana. Ukraine today, for the first time, used American ATACMS missiles to strike.
I'm sorry, but every time I see one of these shots, I think of that CNN footage that was faked when they shot it like inside a hotel to make it look like they were actually in a war zone. I mean, that's sadly, this is where we're at right now. When every time I see it, I'm like, anyway, sorry.
In Russia, targeting an ammunition warehouse in the Bryansk region that borders Ukraine. Russia claiming it shot down 5 of 6 missiles, but a U.S. official now says in reality 8 were launched and Russia only intercepted 2. It came as Vladimir Putin earlier responded with nuclear saber rattling. The Kremlin saying he has changed Russia's military doctrine to allow it to respond with nuclear strikes to such attacks. But Ukraine called Putin's bluff. President Zelensky saying Ukraine will use ATACMS again Again, the Pentagon calling Putin's rhetoric irresponsible, but saying it sees no signs that it needs to change the US's own nuclear posture. Now, Putin has made nuclear threats throughout this war, and today's message also likely intended to be heard by President-elect Donald Trump. Today also, though, marks a grim milestone here in Ukraine, 1,000 days of war. Tonight, as every night, Russia is bombing Ukraine. We spent the evening with an anti-drone patrol watching as they try to track a steady stream of attack drones flying in from Russia, frequent tracer fire going up as Ukrainian troops tried to hit them. And there was a sense, really, of how this war is raging more furiously than ever. Okay.
Oh, but remember this?
A couple of explosions, what may have been an outgoing Patriot ground-to-air missile, some reported airbursts that may have been an intercept of an incoming Scud missile. We're really not sure. All we know is that the air raid sirens have gone off, and we've heard the outgoing roar of at least one Patriot missile. We've heard some sort of airburst. We can't tell where it was from where we are right now. We're waiting to see what's happening. As you can hear, the air raid sirens are still going off around us. People are, strangely enough, used to it.
Who can forget that footage from CNN back in 1990 when CNN staged the faked stories during the Gulf War? That's the state of media. We can't trust them anymore. Sky News, Putin has approved an updated nuclear doctrine. So this news is going worldwide, friends. People are very concerned.
And another worrying development in the last few moments, the Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed a new doctrine, lowering the threshold for the use of nuclear weapons. Let's get our chief correspondent, Stuart Ramsey, to comment on that for us. He's in Kiev for us today. 1,000 days. You were there 1,000 days ago. This is a worrying development.
It is a worrying development to a degree. I have to say, Russia has always had fairly strict protocols over when they can or cannot use nuclear weapons. And if you take the most basic one, is where they're actually under threat of invasion. There's been much talk about lowering those thresholds, and it now appears down to whether they're actually being attacked. And this is, of course, is it saber rattling? Well, you can't tell for certain. Certainly it's something that the Biden administration will have been weighing up and considering when they finally agreed to allow long-range weapons to be used against Russia by Ukraine into Russia itself. But they've limited...
Yeah, Biden escalating this entire situation before Donald Trump takes office. Here is the footage from Bloomberg. Ukrainian forces carried out their first strike. Brian, go vertical with this, please.
Just over the border. So what we know is that Ukraine has now used US-made weapons, they're called ATACMS, to strike inside Russia for the first time since this conflict broke out. These are longer range weapons, but they only flew just over the border to about 75 miles inside Russia, to an area where Ukrainian troops are already operating. So it is, in effect, a zone of conflict. But still, this is the very first use of these weapons over the border into Russia during this conflict. So the question is, how does Russia respond to this latest development? What we know is it comes on a day when Russia announced that President Vladimir Putin had signed off on changes to Russia's nuclear doctrine. These are changes that were discussed some months ago, but announced only today. And it allows Russia, under certain conditions, it says, to use nuclear weapons against another country. The timing is interesting. It just adds to the tensions that we're seeing and a sense that things are really ramping up between Russia and Ukraine, particularly before we see Donald Trump take office in the US in the early part of next year. Well, it actually doesn't change that much on the ground in terms of the conflict. Russia says that it shot down 5 of these missiles. It says the 6th one didn't do much damage. That's Russia's claims, at least. And they didn't go that far into Russian territory. On the ground, we can see Russia still making gains inside Ukraine. What this really is about is Russia and Ukraine starting to really get positioned to be in the best possible position, the strongest position for the reality that this war is heading towards a negotiation. Certainly, Donald Trump, the incoming US president, has indicated that's what he wants. So they're setting themselves up to be in that strongest position for the fact that talks are likely. So,
okay, go horizontal again, Brian. So here we have, look at this. This is Shadow of Ezra. For the first time, Ukraine has unleashed long-range U.S. weapons inside Russia days after the White House gave the green light for their use. This is a major escalation. So you can see this animation here, the Russian Federation. You can see, looks like this is the range of these weapons that could go that deep into Russian territory. So that's pretty deep. Wow, 300 kilometers, even further. And that is, I believe, what they used, that specific weapon. Putin issuing a warning to the United States with a new nuclear doctrine after Biden allows Ukraine to use long-range missiles. Okay, this is, where is the U.S. news media? They have families too, right? Russia has updated the nuclear doctrine, widening the threshold of what would provoke their use of nukes. It extends cover to Belarus. Putin has signed enemies of every American are now speed walking into World War III. So this animation here shows you what exactly it would look like if there was a nuclear exchange. Feels like I'm watching the movie War Games with Matthew Broderick. But no, this is real life. Look at all those targets. Every single one. And wait till you hear, I didn't know about this. Look at this, subs launching. I mean, is this what this is where we're at? Okay. But wait till you see about this dead hand program that Russia has, supposedly. I think that's the scariest thing. But look at all these, everything, just getting, the entire world getting wiped off the map because of these lunatics. I pray that Donald Trump gets this thing sorted out beforehand. And just a month ago, Russia launched these missiles. These are test nukes. A nuclear test launch last month. So they're certainly flexing. Here's the document itself. Putin warned the West that Russia could resort to using nukes. This is the official document from Russia that is now made a reality. But I want to show you, I'm going to get to Trump's remarks in a moment, but I do have Operation Dead Hand here. Brian, let's go into a vertical shot for this, please.
And along with the entire...
This will freak you out.
If the USA and UK launch a coordinated missile attack on Russia, destroying all major cities and killing President Putin along with the entire military leadership, Russia has a backup system in place for retaliation, the dead hand. This automated system is designed to respond to such a scenario. Sensors across Russia will collect data on radiation, heat, and seismic activity, confirming a nuclear strike. The system will then await instructions from Moscow's command center. If no response is received, Dead Hand will assume the leadership has been wiped out. At that point, the system will autonomously launch approximately 4,000 nuclear missiles at the USA and its NATO ally, triggering global devastation. Destruction will be widespread, ensuring that even in death, Russia retaliates. This kind of automated retaliation system ensures that no matter the outcome, the consequences of such an attack would be catastrophic. In the end, the use of nuclear weapons guarantees mutual destruction, a grim reminder of the fragile balance of power. If the USA and UK...
That's where we're at, folks. That's where we're at, folks. Let's listen to Donald Trump. This was posted 15 hours ago, but we need to listen to it again.
We have never been closer
Horizontal,
to World War III than we are today under Joe Biden. A global conflict between nuclear-armed powers would mean death and destruction on a scale unmatched in human history. It would be nuclear Armageddon. Nothing is more important than avoiding that nightmare. We will avoid it, but we need new leadership. Every day this proxy battle in Ukraine continues, we risk global war. We must be absolutely clear that our objective is to immediately have a total cessation of hostilities. All shooting has to stop. This is the central issue. We need peace without delay. In addition, there must also be a complete commitment to dismantling the entire globalist neocon establishment that is perpetually dragging us into endless wars, pretending to fight for freedom and democracy abroad, while they turn us into a third world country and a third world dictatorship right here at home. The State Department, the defense bureaucracy, the intelligence services, and all of the rest need to be completely overhauled and reconstituted to fire the deep staters and put America first. We have to put America first. Finally, we have to finish the process we began under my administration of fundamentally reevaluating NATO's purpose and NATO's mission. Our foreign policy establishment keeps trying to pull the world into conflict with a nuclear-armed Russia based on the lie that Russia represents our greatest threat. But the greatest threat to Western civilization today is not Russia. It's probably, more than anything else, ourselves and some of the horrible USA-hating people that represent us. It's the abolition of our national borders. It's the failure to police our own cities. It's the destruction of the rule of law from within. It's the collapse of the nuclear family and fertility rates like nobody can believe is happening. It's the Marxists who would have us become a godless nation worshiping at the altar of race and gender and environment. And it's the globalist class that has made us totally dependent on China and other foreign countries that basically hate us. These globalists want to squander all of America's strength, blood, and treasure, chasing monsters and phantoms overseas while keeping us distracted from the havoc they're creating right here at home. These forces are doing more damage to America than Russia and China could ever have dreamed. Evicting this sick and corrupt establishment is the monumental task for the next president. And I am the only one who can do it. I'm the only one that can get the job done. I know exactly what has to be done.
Amen. And this just in, we're just learning, this coming from InfoWars, top UN war crimes prosecutor Dr. Francis Boyle reveals bills of impeachment against Biden in order to prevent World War III. I mean, I'm not putting any faith in any impeachment proceedings against Biden at all. I don't think it'll have any impact. However, Ukrainian President Zelensky says we will lose the war against Russia if President-elect Trump cuts funding to Ukraine. Oh, really?
I want to ask you about some comments you made regarding possible negotiations last week. You said the U.S. can't force you to sit at the negotiating table. What if the U.S. government cuts military funding to Ukraine?
If they will cut, I think we will lose. Of course, anyway, we will stay, we will fight. We have our production, but it's not enough to prevail. And I think it's not enough to survive. But that will be, if such choice will be American choice, so we will decide what we will have to do.
As President Volodymyr Zelensky lays out his case for more weapons and air defense, tonight air raid sirens were sounding across the Ukrainian capital as Russia launched new attacks. Brett?
So, there you have it. The world closer to nuclear conflict than at any time since the Cuban Missile Crisis. While Biden plays with fire, Kamala vacations in Hawaii, Trump's already calling for peace talks with both Putin and Zelensky. So show your support for peace through strength with our MAG Avengers collection at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. And now here's the question that should shake every American to their core, and drop your thoughts below. Why is the Biden administration deliberately escalating tensions with a nuclear power just weeks after losing the election? Are they really trying to create a crisis that prevents Trump from taking office? And most importantly, who's really pulling the strings behind these policies? I want to hear from you. All right, let's check in on the chat, see what you guys are saying. Any super chats coming in? We will check there. I don't. Oh, wow, quite a few. Okay. All right. Okay, we got Shore You. This is about an hour ago. I have the cactus of power, he says. Can we bring that up? Is that showing? There it is. Wait, it disappeared. I have the cactus of power. $2. He wants to make everyone very clear that he holds that cactus. Ames Camps dropping $5. Thanks, Gary. Wish I could give more. I give lots to podcasters. Well, thank you so much, Ames Camps. And then Pothead Kenny dropping a 5 spot. Thank you for that. And he says, Elon buys InfoWars and hires Alex, Gary, Tucker, and Megan to run it as a news station. Yeppers! Looks like there was another one. Parmis Dax, $5. Thank you for that. And Parmis says, mad, mutual assured destruction. Only Trump can turn this thing around. Yeah. Let's hope we don't get to World War III before Trump takes office. That would just be absolutely madness. I mean, those animations are quite terrifying, especially the dead hand switch that they've got. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. It's a nuke fallout map. I gave my money to Gary last night, says Big Dog Blackie. Thank you. We are not going to keep giving you money, Zelensky. Any more money, man up. We never should have gotten involved to begin with. Okay, let's see who else. SOS Trump. They print the money. It's not for profit. What is the link? Vaughn chat. I'm not sure what that means. JWAG, they'd rather the world blow up than lose power and be held accountable. Goodness. Wow. Okay, let's take a look at the news feed and check on the latest happenings in the world. Okay. Oh, Wall Street Journal just posting this. Brian, if you could bring up the triple box, please. And this is from Shane Cashman. Alex Jones suing The Onion and the families over the InfoWars deal. Attorneys for Jones say the satirical website made illegitimate bid for InfoWars and plans to misuse its intellectual property. Wow, Wall Street Journal. Jones is now suing them. So this has gone to a whole nother level. We've got this Vish Burra 8 minutes ago. What's up, Vish? What up, Vish? God bless Matt and Ginger Gaetz. We are well on our way to making America great again. Vish is an awesome guy. Glad to know him. Adam Lowitz. What's up, Adam? A minute ago. Adam, you're back on the raw feed. You're back on the raw feed tonight, Adam. Oh, yeah. Adam Lowitz says, keeping my fingers crossed that the Republican Party pulls through with those recess appointments. I could not agree more. After the late votes came in, Democrats in North Carolina, it's expected to win the state Supreme Court race by just 600 votes over 5.5 million. The Republican had been leading up until this point. Wow. I don't know why they're still counting the votes there. Jay Leno falls 60 feet downhill and still shows up to perform, breaking his wrist, injuring his eye, and still, oh my goodness, he looks horrible. I don't even want to show you. He looks bad. Hakeem Jeffries apparently is now flipping out. This is your priority. You want to bully a member of Congress? Yeah, they're all freaking out over who can use the bathroom in Congress now. I can't believe we're wasting our time on this. But that's been another topic. I didn't even want to touch it today because it's so ridiculous. What else have we got here? Okay, this is Charlie Kirk bringing up that legal note that Sonny Hostin had to read today. Elon Musk, Gates will be our hammer of justice. Let's go. Let's see. Roger Stone saying this 2 minutes ago. And asp in the bosom is more dangerous than a snake in the grass. Stone's rules. Colonel Conrad Reynolds must see voting machine failure during public demonstration in Arkansas. Tonight at the Pulaski County Election Commission, where we went to support and hear about the voting issues, 2 of the 3 commissioners voted a certified election they know is not certifiable, apparently. Voting machine broke down in front of them. Prison for everyone involved. Rick Wiles, former CDC director, Dr. Robert Redfield, said COVID may have been created in a lab at the University of North Carolina, not Wuhan. If true, it means COVID pandemic was a U.S. military operation. Video from Dan Scavino. This looks like from within Donald Trump's motorcade just a couple hours ago. Adam Lois reposted our post. For a moment, I thought the motorcade was about to pull into a McDonald's. Elon Musk, not happy about what's going on. 8 prior arrests in New York, 7 prior felony charges, released exactly 1 month ago, rearrested that day, then released and killed 3 people in broad daylight. Unbelievable. Dana Loesch, you have to show up and do the job. No excuses. You can't just own the left online. You got to do it by stopping their judicial appointments with your confirmation vote too. I step away for a couple of hours to do an interview, and I come back to pictures of Kim K making what? I don't know. That's just creepy. Gerald Celente 5 minutes ago says Team Trump reportedly floating alternatives to Pete Hegseth in case President-elect ditches him. A real possibility. Really? Who let the DOGE out? Nice. Awesome. The sheriff of Dodge City. Okay, and then we covered this breaking news out of Ukraine. Voters are okay with Trump cabinet picks except for Matt Gaetz, according to a poll. Who are they polling? Latinos deliver a powerful lesson to the Democrat Party this election. Trump War Room, 3 hours ago. Incoming White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller. The moment that President Trump puts his hand on the Bible, takes the oath, the occupation ends. Let's listen.
The moment that President Trump puts his hand on that Bible and takes the oath of office, as he has said, the occupation ends, Liberation Day begins. He will immediately sign executive orders, sealing the border shut, beginning the largest deportation operation in American history, finding the criminal gangs, rapists, drug dealers, and monsters that have murdered our citizens and sending them home. No one will be allowed to enter the country illegally, and ICE will be empowered in partnership with FBI, DEA, ATF, the National Guard to fully seal and secure the border with CBP and to find and identify the criminal threats that are inside this country and send them back home. We saw that heartbreaking testimony, Sean. Laken Riley, that precious, beautiful young woman, fought for her life against an illegal alien imported by Biden-Harris for 18 harrowing minutes. She fought for her life. And we are going to honor that extraordinary woman. And we're going to honor every victim who has suffered. Under President Trump's leadership, we're going to honor that suffering by unleashing a righteous wave of justice and sending these criminal migrants back home.
Let's go. It's about time. Oh, boy. All right. Okay, what's Elijah posting now? Oh boy, I'm afraid to even look. Americans live much more prosperous lives on average than Australians. They have nothing and live in such small spaces. Schools are cramped, grocery stores tiny. The people they mock overseas live higher quality life, better standards day to day. Not sure what this is about. Keeps getting worse for the Colorado Secretary of State. Every single person in Colorado, regardless of race, party, or socioeconomic status, should be livid. What happened? I don't know. Can you live without 3 million government employees? Grant Cardone asked the question. I think we could. Okay. All right, folks. Got more work ahead of me. So, Patriots, what an absolutely explosive edition of the Raw feed this has been. So let's recap what we have uncovered together tonight. We watched the mainstream media's empire of lies crumble as Matt Gaetz stood strong, forcing The View to issue that humiliating retraction. The same media that called Trump literally Hitler is now making pilgrimages to Mar-a-Lago. You can't make this stuff up, folks. We unveiled Trump's dream team that's sending shockwaves through Washington, D.C. Dr. Oz revolutionizing healthcare, Linda McMahon transforming education, and a pro-crypto warrior heading to the SEC, plus Howard Lutnick's plan to eliminate income tax as a deep state working overtime to shred evidence. We witnessed the complete collapse of the legal witch hunts against Trump from Georgia to Manhattan. These politically motivated cases are falling apart faster than CNN's ratings. The timing couldn't be more telling, Patriots. And those FEMA whistleblower revelations, absolutely shocking. Americans freezing in tents while FEMA officials sleep in heated RVs, discriminating against Trump supporters. This is happening in America right now. And we're the only ones telling you about it. And of course, Putin's updated nuclear doctrine, a direct response to Biden's desperate attempt to start World War III before leaving office. But Trump is already working on peace talks, showing true leadership when we need it most. So I want to thank everyone who sent in their super chats and Rumble rants tonight. Your support and engagement make the show what it is. And speaking of support, Patriots, we can't do this alone. The mainstream media wants voices like ours silenced. They want these stories buried, but together we are too strong for them. If you value real news, if you want these crucial stories to keep reaching millions, please consider supporting us through the links in the description. Every donation, no matter the size, helps us continue this vital mission. And don't forget to grab our latest merch at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Our new collections are dropping, so show the world you stand for truth. Now, before we sign off, remember to share the stream with every patriot you know. Tell them about the Next News Network. Follow us on all platforms, YouTube, Rumble, and X, because the censors are working overtime. But they can't stop us if we stick together. This is Gary Franchi. You've been watching the Raw feed. Tomorrow is going to be another explosive show. You don't want to miss it. Until then, stay vigilant, stay informed, and keep fighting for truth. Good night, Patriots.